Hello, everybody. I got a question for y'all. How is your days going? Right now, I'm just gonna wait until a bit more people arrive and then I'm gonna start. Because, I thought about this for a bit. I think it would be cool if I just stream some topics that are just like discussion about the game, whether that's today it's the Uber meta, or maybe I could just be talking about Ponos's update direction or just game design, game balance. A lot of things to talk about in this game because I have a lot of experience with this game and I enjoy talking about this game at a high level. And yeah, I am starting something called the Battle Podcasts as well, which is going to be a podcast series with me and Game Changer, who is another really, really good player who was the first guy to be Unit 13 3-star no gacha, if you don't know who Game Changer is. But me and him are going to start this podcast thing in the future called the Battle Podcasts, where we just talk about like Battle Cat stuff. So you guys can look forward to that when it does come out. But yeah, for now, I'm just gonna be here and I'm gonna talk about the Uber meta today because I think it would be an interesting topic. All right, I think we can start. Actually, let me just go here for a second. All right, we have a slideshow ready. Isn't that so cool, guys? Look at this slideshow that I prepared just for this stream. I'm sure all of you love slideshows. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave it here and I'm gonna talk about a few things first. So we're gonna go through this slideshow first today. It's gonna explain how methodology works, because I feel like a lot of people nowadays, when you talk about Ubers and rankings and tier lists, you need to understand what a methodology is, because a methodology determines what is important for the tier list and what do you value more or less. And without a methodology, your tier list or your ranking holds no weight, not even weight of like how what's the word for it? Not even weights in how like important or how useful it is, but also it just holds no weight in an argumentative or just a knowledge sense. So methodology is important. So today we're going to go through this slideshow that I just made on methodology first, and then we're going to take a look at the tier list. So I think this could be very, very cool. So let's go through it first. It's time to go through this slideshow now then. We have Can's Uber tier list, methodology and explanation. So this is our magical slideshow. It's time to proceed now. Now let's go through this. What is a tier list methodology? A tier list methodology is a set of guidelines used for determining the value provided by a unit in the list. This extends to whatever you want to make a tier list around. It doesn't have to be Ubers. You can do it for like all cat units or anything, essentially. And then depending on what the methodology is built around, different strengths and weaknesses of a unit are more or less important. Yeah, I didn't use PowerPoint because I'm lazy, and Google Slides is already part of your Google account. So yeah, so let's move on to things to consider. There are many things that you need to consider when making a methodology, because there's a lot of ways of analyzing and taking value from these Ubers. So let's go through a few factors that we can look at to determine a worth of an Uber. So the first is generalist value, how well an Uber performs on most stages in the game. This is a highly sought after thing because, well, if your Uber performs very well on most stages or a lot of stages in the game, then that's a lot of stages that you can just like use that Uber to get past, or this Uber will just, you can slot it in always and they'll end up performing well the vast majority of the time. So this is a very sought after trait in a lot of methodologies. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have specialist value, which is how good an Uber is at completing its niche value tasks. What does this mean? Well, the specialist value of an Uber, if we look at an Uber for generalist value, we can just say that in the context of a randomly chosen stage, or just within the context of a stage in the game, how well will this Uber perform for the most part? Given like enemy distributions being normal, while a specialist value is maybe your Uber has a certain ability like a target red, or a massive damage, or maybe critical hit to kill those metals, and our specialist value is based on how good is this Uber at completing the niche value tasks, or in this example, how well is your crit Uber at how good is it at killing metal enemies or beating metal stages. For your anti-red Uber, it's how good is it at beating red enemies or helping you get past hard red stages. So those are also very important, like generalist value is, because even if you have good generalists, a specialist value will more often than not outweigh a generalist value at beating a specific stage. It might not be as good on every stage, but usually a specialist value will perform more than a generalist value on a specific stage if the specialist value is made to beat that specific stage or specific enemy. Next we have consistency. And consistency is a factor that is more or less important. It's depending on what kind of player you are. Because some players, they just want to beat the game as cleanly as possible, while some players do not really care if like you'll end up dying a few times, and it's more so about can you beat the stage at all. So consistency is highly contested on the value of it in a lot of people's methodology. And well, consistency is just how consistent is this Uber at doing its job, which is essentially like, is there RNG involved? Are there inconsistencies in the form of, does this unit miss a lot? Does this unit like not proc its crowd controls? Does this unit get stopped out by other enemies when it's trying to do its special niche, or just its attacks in general? There's a lot of things that relate to consistency, and an easier way that you can view it is that how much setup is required to make the Uber work, in a sense. Because an Uber that doesn't have any, not setup, I mean how conditional is the Uber at working? That's the better way of putting it. Because if an Uber has very little conditions it needs to work properly, then it's going to be very consistent. For example, look at a King of Destiny Phono, who he just has a ton of range, ton of damage, ton of LD. He's gonna shoot damage out at the enemies, and there's not really much you need to do for him to do that. He'll just do it from like a distance. Don't really need to set up any range things like a Dazzly, like an LD stepping stone. Your Phono is just gonna do that. You don't really need to worry about most of the enemies because Phono just outranges them, so you don't need to play into much timing when using a Phono. While if we look at something else with more consistency problems, we can look at the last boss. 30% Savage Blow chance, that might not always happen, but even besides the Savage Blow chance for a unit like last boss, if he misses, you have to wait a long time for him to hit again. And he has a long force swing, he might miss, and it's very easy to lose damage, not just from not getting the Savage Blow, but from misses or hitting the wrong target when you use a unit like Last Boss, so he's not a very consistent unit. Now we look at efficiency, which is how well the Uber performs at its job compared to all other competing units. So efficiency is kind of like if we take a unit like a Kasa Jizo, he'll destroy the black enemies pretty well, but does he do it better than Pizza Cat? And that's what efficiency kind of is. Is this, when we look at all the units trying to do this anti-black damager role, anti-black damager at the mid-ranged role, or just in general, where does Jizo as an Uber stands compared to all units, and is he worth using based on that. That's how efficiency works. Because if Pizza's going to do it a better job, then you'd rather just use Pizza than a Jizo. Now we look at skill floor, which is another important factor. How difficult is it to use this Uber at a level which they perform well? You may be familiar with the saying of skill floor and skill ceiling, where skill floor is kind of like the barrier to entry on the ability to perform at a decent level. So it's kind of like, how hard is it to get this Uber to work? You've seen skill floors in like other games too. Like maybe a fighting game, this character, you need to learn all these complex combos and game knowledge to make them work. While this other character, maybe you just like use your attacking move, you spam this, and then they'll perform well. So that's like skill floor in other games. And in BC, in Battle Cats, skill floor is when you take a unit, for example, like a Dazzly. Not much of a skill floor. You just put Dazzly on the field, you keep meat shielding, Dazzly's melting everyone. Well, maybe for a skill floor, someone who could be harder to utilize could be, for example, let me think for a bit. How about a Lufalan Pastalan, actually? Who isn't the the unit you think of as a hard to use unit, but there's a lot of conditions going on that require you to fulfill for Luffy to perform. Like, for example, use Luffy, he gets touched, he dies, 1 knockback, so that's very punishing for Lufalan Pastalan. Single target, he's going to waste damage if you hit a peon with him, so that's another thing you have to watch out for. So there are a lot of conditions that you need to play around for Luffy to actually do something impactful, which is hit an important boss. Even if Luffy isn't too hard to use, it's kind of hard for me to think of a unit with a high skill floor, since most units in this game have like a medium skill floor at the most. A lot of them are really low skill floors. So something like a Luffy, not really hard to use, but he's harder to use than a Dazzly, where you don't really need to think at all. And then next we have skill ceiling, which is like the upper limit. How much does this Uber earn at maximum potential? How difficult is it to operate this Uber such that they earn that maximum value as well? So for example, a skill ceiling of a Phono, not too high actually, because Phono, even if you try to do well with a Phono, really all you do, you deploy him, and then he attacks the enemies, you make sure he doesn't miss. That's the one thing you have to play around with Phono. Not much else, so it's pretty simple to get maximum value with a Phono. But then what's a unit with a high skill ceiling? And this is pretty easy to think of, because like, look at a Balrog Cat. A Balrog Cat, well known for having a high skill ceiling. You get him his strength in, and then you start chaining those hits. You can juggle a lot of enemies. You can deal tons of damage. But you can also like fuck up the Balrog. You can have him die early, and then get a lot of variation in value depending on did you use that Balrog well or not. So Balrog has a high skill ceiling compared to a lot of Ubers. And whether or not you want an Uber that has a low skill floor or a higher skill ceiling, that just depends on personal preference. And then we look at investment, which some methodologies choose to ignore, but some do factor it in. And that is how costly the Uber is, as well as are its upgrades held behind in progression. I mean, are there upgrades held behind something in progression? So like, basically, is this Uber, do you need level 60 for it? That's 15 Dark Eyes. Is it Ultra Talents or just talents in general? You got to pay up NP. What are the evolution requirements? Some of them require Behemoth Stones. Some of them require stuff like Epic Seed, which is locked behind Stories of Legend completion. And then others are just locked behind a variety of crafting materials, such as Elder Fruit, Aku Fruit, Gold Fruit, etc. And then we have compatibility, which is within the stages present in your methodology. How many stages do they perform well on? And your methodology also contains like, what stages do you value, for example? So maybe you do value, is this Uber good on Heinous Road? Is it good on Benagrios? Is it good on Revival of Origin or Soractes, for example? Maybe you do count those, but maybe you don't count something like, is this Uber good on like clearing those Stories of Legend stages 3-star? Maybe that doesn't matter to you. Or is it good at killing Dabu of the Dead because that's too early? So maybe you don't count that. And the range of what stages you want to count does affect like how compatible it is. And I think next, yeah, this is the third and last page for these factors. And there are definitely more factors you can consider than the ones I have listed here. Because there's a lot of things you can assess Ubers by. I think, yeah, replaceability, we'll start with this. How niche or special is the role that this unit has? Can it be replaced with other units? That's just kind of similar to efficiency in a way, but it's more of like, is this good enough? Can it be replaced with something else? So maybe back to the Jizo and pizza example, maybe even though pizza can replace Jizo, if Jizo's still good enough, you can still use that Jizo. But you could also value replaceability in the way that pizza just replaces Jizo and you don't want him to begin with. So replaceability and efficiency are pretty similar, but I think that efficiency in a way more so relates to like speed and such, who does it better, while replaceability is who does more. It's kind of more like that, but you can view it in a different way. Then we got playstyle. Does this Uber match my playstyle? Because we know everyone has a different playstyle. Some people like rusher units, some people like spamming those backliners with piercing stuff, and everyone plays differently. So you might find yourself liking some units because of their mechanics more than others. So playstyle does play a big part in what you value for methodology. Then we have synergy. How well does this Uber work with your other units? Because of course this is not a 1v1 game with your Uber fighting enemies. Your Uber of course has your meat shields and your other attackers and even your other Ubers as well. So can this Uber support other units like an Empress of Kronos, who can freeze the enemies and help your other units get in? Or is it good at being supported by other units? For example, like a Balrog, who normally struggles with peons on the field or hitting the right thing, but it's easy to support Balrog to make it so he lands his hits correctly and then enables a lot more power from that Balrog. So units can be easy to support as well, instead of just being good at supporting other units. So both of these factors are important for synergy. And then of course combo, which is just, if you got a good cat combo, how useful is it, you know? Like Vigler combo for the research, Lasvos combo for the research, Diabolos's attack combo, Cuneo, etc. Those are like the more valuable combos than like, say a random resist combo, a random massive damage combo. Those aren't as useful as the research or the raw attack damage combos. And then how to value these, because we all value them differently. More or less important depending on what the methodology finds useful. You can say for a later part of the game methodology, you don't care about investment costs that much because you have a lot of materials already. And vice versa. Maybe you can say you don't value the skill floor that well because I play decently well enough to where the skill floor doesn't matter to me. I can operate every unit at a competent level, so the skill floor stops mattering. And etc. Some could be a lot more important depending on what kind of player you are. If you're a new player, maybe you need units to have a certain skill floor or else you can't get good value from them. So yeah, you mix and match these to create whatever suits you the best, because at the end of the day, you're probably the one who benefits the most from having a methodology when you try to like rank and decide who's the best, because, well, that's kind of obvious. And then of course you shouldn't assume that if you see someone's ranking or someone's tier list, they probably operate it differently than how you do, because they value different things. And essentially, without a methodology, a tier list or a ranking doesn't really have a meaning, because if we have nothing to base the rankings on, nothing to assign weights and values to certain strengths and weaknesses of a unit, then it doesn't mean anything. It's just someone's number ranking and whatever they think of. So let's look at more types of methodologies here first. First, we're going to go look at the old generalist methodology. This is the OG methodology, literally in the name, OG. But you guys, if you played this game a long time ago or just were an old veteran, you guys probably remember this methodology, which is based on the assumption that you have one or very few Ubers. How well do they perform in a general sense? This is how the game usually operated with rankings and tier lists back then, since around the start to around like 2020, around when like Dazzly came out and we started to get better progression boosts. This is when the old generalist methodology started to fall apart because it's not practical anymore to assume the player has few Ubers when progression is so good that people probably have like 10, 20, 30 Ubers as they keep progressing. So back then, unit like Shishilan, very valuable because he's just a raw generalist compared to someone like a Volta who is just there to freeze those aliens. So we'd see a lot of specialists back then placed lower and a lot of generalists placed higher on the tier lists. And next, we have the endgame methodology, which I think is what a lot of people try to assess units by nowadays, which is we assume the player is an endgame, which whatever you call endgame depends on who you are. Maybe you assume mid UL is endgame. Maybe you assume only like max barons and star UL is endgame. It depends, but the general idea, regardless of what you assign to be that endgame position, is within the context of that game. From that game, that specific point that you call endgame, when it starts to when it ends, which is of course all of the content in the game, which Ubers are the most useful for players to equip and help them clear those stages. Because when you have a lot of options, then maybe you want to just focus on what are the hardest stages here. So we want to beat the hardest stages like a Soroctes, like a Benagrios, or a Heinous Road, because those are the ones that are hard. Everything else kind of just gets deleted by all my other units. So if we focus on these hard endgame stages, that could be useful. And this did become more standardized after the old generalist methodology started to fade away. And I do think this is the most helpful one for players who already have a good understanding of the game. They have some Ubers, they're in the mid to late game, which I assume to be, maybe you're an early UL, or like late Stories of Legend. You're competent in understanding the fundamentals of the game. Maybe you have cans unlocked, some talents, some other Ubers, and you just want to get what you can to make the game as easy as possible when you reach the harder stages. So I think this is a very practical way of looking at it for people who are kind of like soft veterans, like you've played the game for a decent bit. Next, we have the post-game methodology, which is what some people think is endgame methodology, but it's not actually endgame methodology. And post-game is kind of a stupid word that some people don't like, but I have to separate the two because they operate entirely differently. So some people call endgame methodology, some people call this the endgame methodology, but I'm referring it differently as the post-game methodology, which the post-game methodology is which Ubers are best at destroying the game in the most efficient way possible. Which essentially means, if you have everything in the game unlocked, what is the best now? So for example, you have all the Ubers in the game. Dazzly is still broken, so you're going to still use Dazzly. Balrog, still broken. You're going to use Balrog. You have everything, you're still going to use these for your farming stages, or when the new ZL comes out, new other stages. These are the units that you're going to equip and are going to usually perform the best in the post-game methodology. So your important factors here, speed, you want to beat stages fast, because otherwise that's a loss of efficiency. Consistency, you want to beat stages unconditionally, so there's no risk of losing or no risk of just messing up in general. And then irreplaceability, because if something is irreplaceable, it just stays in your lineup and it's going to keep destroying stages, like a Balrog is always there for most post-game methodologies. Next, we got the progression methodology. This is a pretty useful one for people who are like just trying to progress through the game as fast as possible, because Battle Cats is a big game now. It takes a long time to reach the end, so getting progression boosts is very useful. And this one's based on what Ubers are the most useful for reaching those later parts of the game and completing the game as a whole. And investment cost, super important. Someone like Ultraform Cosmo is a strong unit, but if you can't access him in the early, mid, or even like some of the late game, then he only works in the end game and he's not the most useful pull earlier on because you need to get that Ultra form first. Well, someone like a Dazzly, you don't even need a true form. Dazzly just solos everything. So investment cost, very important for this methodology. And the Ubers, which work for the vast majority of stages, are usually preferred in this methodology over specialists. Even if a specialist does beat a certain hard stage, it's better to just breeze through the game with a strong generalist with this methodology. However, it is different from the old generalist methodology because we do acknowledge you're going to have multiple Ubers, And we also do value specialists a lot if they beat certain unlock stages. Because this is progression based, getting powerful units like a Slime, Bahamut's Blast Talent, Euro True Form, Royal Guard, etc. Those are all very, very important these specializing in being able to beat those and unlock them for the player to get more power. That's valued very highly in a progression-based methodology. So it's why something like a Luna is very, very good in progression, because you get a free Bahamut Blast, and we all know how strong Bahamut Blast is. And this, you might find this kind of funny, but X-School methodology, I am going to talk about this, because this is definitely a methodology that exists. And I think it's kind of foolish to try to ignore this, because it's its own methodology. But it's a methodology that a lot of people will end up seeing. Because, well, X-School is a big guy. He does rankings, and he uses a specific methodology. So a lot of people like to disagree with what X-School puts on his list, because they assume that, oh, well, he must be doing it under my methodology, therefore, what the hell is this tier list? Because it looks all weird and stuff. But X-School has his unique methodology. It's kind of a mix of some of these that I've stated so far. And you can read about it here. I linked it here, though I didn't link this slideshow, but you can just go to his channel, any ranking description, he'll post it there. The X-School methodology, which essentially I read a lot of this before. You can read it by I said you can go to his channel, and he has a giant amount of pages on what his methodology is, and examples and rankings. But essentially, in the eyes of a seed tracking player, which essentially means if you get to choose what Ubers you get, which Ubers would be the best pools. So let's say you get to choose what Ubers you get because you're tracking, then in that case, what is a good Uber to track for? That is what the X-School methodology is. And you are allowed to complain that this is quite a silly methodology, because, well, he does not factor in investment cost, but if he doesn't want to do that, he doesn't have to, because this is his own methodology. So I oversimplified the explanation, but it's pretty similar to endgame methodology. Beating hard stages in the endgame is important in X-School's methodology from what we've seen. He does ignore investment costs. That's why someone like Cosmo is pretty high on his list, because no investment cost takes a toll from him there. And then also another note is that in his methodology, Ubers cannot be replaced by another, which essentially means if an Uber overlaps a role with another strong Uber, that's not going to lower its value, because we don't assume you have every Uber. We just assume you get like some Ubers maybe. I'm not sure about the exact specifics. You're going to have to ask X-School himself. But this is a very prominent methodology around the community, because X-School is like the big ranking guy. And also he lists that niche, replaceability, versatility are important factors, which they make sense for what he does. So the X-School methodology is definitely one of them of all time. It's not the one I would use, but if we look at what he does under his methodology, a lot of his rankings I think you'll find make a lot more sense than if you used like standard regular methodology to look at them. Next, we have full game methodology, which in simple terms is just look at all the methodologies I just talked about and combine them together for the context of the full game. How useful is an Uber at just doing this stuff? So yeah, it's just a mix of everything so far. And usually if you do this, you'll actually see that a lot of units go in the higher tiers, because when you're trying to find a role for a unit within the context of the whole game, usually a lot of units have that role, have that good moment that allows them to be very useful and in a higher tier. So you'll see a lot of good units if you go for a full game methodology. And now we have some other more weirder types of methodologies that do exist but aren't very practical. First is like potential-based methodology, which is assuming you play at the highest level, which is kind of contradictory because most people use Ubers to make the game easier, but let's assume you play at the highest possible level, like maybe you're 7 incarnate or something. What Ubers can accomplish the most if you play at the highest level? Which means that a setup Uber, someone that you just, this all happens, you get the most value off of. And also RNG Ubers, like a last boss, if you just get Savage Blow after Savage Blow, he has very high potential to do a lot, but it's just not practical. This kind of is the methodology you look at if you're trying to task a stage. because, well, if you're tasking a stage, you're going for max potential, but it's not something you should abide by in a normal playthrough. And then we have challenge methodology, because people like doing challenges in this game. So within the context of whatever challenge you're doing, whether that's a one lineup or a minimum slot challenge, what Uber would provide the most value or the most essential for just the challenge. So for example, if we look at a one lineup challenge, a Dphono is going to outclass your Dazzly and your other units, because that's what 7 did to replace Dazzly with Dphono, and also Mitama with that Dphono in his one lineup. Someone like Balrog, also very good. He's in a lot of one lineups because he's quite an essential unit. But yeah, this only matters within the context of the challenge, so you shouldn't really go around saying Dphono, greatest Uber in the game, because he replaced Dazzly and Mitama and Yukimura in 7-1 lineup. Let's go. Like, that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. But it's cool though. So yeah, these are the other types of methodologies, and some final notes, which is just make sure you actually understand someone's methodology before you just disagree with them on how they process a list. Because if you try to assess, like, say, an X-School methodology tier list with a progression-based methodology that factors in investment costs, you're gonna get a ton of disagreements because you two don't value the same things. So these units are just not the same value. But this doesn't mean that even if you do understand the methodology, that you can still argue with them. Just make sure to do it in a respectful and civilized manner, you know? You don't need to ad hominem someone. You don't need to straw man someone. Just realize it's just a game, man. It's just a game. But it's fun to have discussions sometimes, and meta discussion, you know? But yeah, that's all I have here in this slideshow about Battle Cat's meta discussion. I hope you enjoyed our TED Talk today as we transition into our tier list. So yeah, and now gonna zoom in, and we're gonna go to this tier list here, and I'm gonna go and make some poll. Actually, I need to pin some comments, so I'm gonna type this out. Alright, we're gonna go and pin this now. And we're done talking about methodology. Oh, so I have this personal tier list, and honestly, I was just making a tier list for fun, and that's where I got the ideas to just do this stream, because it's kind of funny. But I think it would be cool if I just talked about some Ubers, gave my opinions on them. So we have a tier list here, and let me ask you guys one question before we start. And that question is, I have two ideas to do now. We have general purpose tier list, or just my personal tier list, which is what I like. So if I do the personal tier list, I get to show you guys like my what I view to be the strongest Ubers when I use them. So it's just the context of me. And then a general list is something more that's like, well, factoring in a lot of other factors, maybe for other people in general, what would be better. So I'm gonna ask you the question of whether you want to see my personal Uber tier list of like just how I operate and use Ubers in the game and what I think of them as valued, or what I think is more of a general purpose tier list for people in general. So I'm gonna just make a poll here. How do I make a poll? How do I make a poll? It's kind of fun. Dude, I did not know how to make a poll. This is not good. Not good at all. I am going to... Okay, we're going to move to here for a few seconds. And now we're going to go and make a poll. Come on. Start a poll. All right, the poll has been created. Let's go back to the fancy scene now. Not you. So I made my magical poll, and now we're just gonna wait a bit, kind of chill, wait for the votes to rack up, maybe talk a little, because we can, you know. And I think that regardless, we're all just here to have a fun time, you know. So just don't get too heated over some weird ass placements. Because I definitely have a lot of hot takes, because the way I play the game is a lot different from a lot of other people, because I don't know, I try to find a lot of, like, the most value I can in a unit and optimize things very hard. Let's take a look. 81%. We don't need this tab anymore. Alright, we're doing a personal tier list. Goodbye, generalist tier list. Let's go in my personal Uber tier list then. It's a fun tier list, I will say that. So first off, guys, I will propose you with a question. And that question is, what Uber do you think I think is the best Uber in the game? That's my question for you guys. What Uber is the best in the game to me? Leave your guesses in the chat, everybody. There's a lot of good Ubers in the game, you know. A lot of good Ubers. Anything could be the best. But what's the best to me? That's today's question. And I think I'll say it now. This is not really like a hard guess, I'd say. Because I've said before that, well, this is also a very popular pick, but it's Balrog. Balrog is the best Uber in the game. I'd say that Balrog does a lot that you can't take away, because it's super unique. A lot of the Ubers in the game are like these big range LD backliners, giant damage. Balrog is that melee guy who comes in, swings for hundreds of thousands, even millions of damage, and he does it. You can't take that away from him, because there's nothing that replaces Balrog, and what he does is really, really broken. So Balrog, really, really strong unit, man. I think one thing that people like, I have a video on the big 3, big 4 coming out soon. One thing that people underrate the hell out of for Balrog, this is a 28-second cooldown unit. This guy comes back faster than Delinquent Cat in cooldown. There's a comparison I have in my video. If you deploy Housewife and Balrog at the same time, you are going to get your second Balrog back before your third Housewife. He comes back that fast. You can spam the hell out of Balrog, and he's a crazy unit, because not only does he have some of the best stats in the game, but he's spammable on top of that, and that is just fundamentally super, super broken. And on top of being like his own thing, there is no Balrog replacement. So he's a crazy, crazy unit. Alright, now we have a more interesting question. Which is, who do I think is the second best Uber in the game? Because if you saw my video on, what's it called? I have a video on what is the best unit in the game. And in that video I said Balrog and Kankan are honorable mentions to my Rock Cat. But I chose Rock Cat as the best unit. But the fact that Balrog was there, like, you kind of could guess that I thought Balrog was the best Uber in the game. So yeah. So I'm gonna ask you guys to guess what I think is the second best Uber in the game. And here's a hint. Here's a very, very misleading but funny hint. I play the game at like a very high level. So I like units I can utilize that have a lot of value that is irreplaceable and a lot of potential. That is my hint for you guys. Wow, I wonder who could fulfill those requirements. And well, yep, the answer, as some of you, but most of you didn't say, is, let me find them real quick. This should not be hard to find them. I am blind, guys. Oh, there we go. I found him. Or her. It's Dazzly. Dazzly is the second best Uber in the game to me. And a lot of people nowadays, I feel like they undermine Dazzly's power. Because this unit became the best Uber in the game for a reason. There was a reason why Dazzly created her own meta. And it's because she's broken as fuck, man. Like, in a sense, Dazzly, crazy stats, LD, but the thing is, the one thing that makes Dazzly irreplaceable by anything else, or like anything at her level, which is called lasting hitbox. Dazzly not only has broken stats, broken damage, broken reach, LD, survivability, she has a lasting hitbox. And lasting hitboxes are fucking broken. Because it means Dazzly just keeps hitting stuff, even if they're in knockback state. They get hit again and again. Then it has nothing to do with just her having roided stats. If she only had roided stats, she'd be down here. But because she has a lasting hitbox, which is fundamentally broken, she is not replaceable by any other Uber in the game. Even someone like an Akira, who does have a surge, that's a level 1 surge, it's not the same. Dazzly level 3 surge, busted damage, it juggles enemies. If you have infinite Brawlos against the Dazzly surge, infinite Brawlos cannot win because they just get juggled by a surge. That is something that no other top Uber gives you. And we haven't even talked about Curse. Dazzly is the best Curse user in the game because it's LD infinite uptime. Well, not infinite, I mean like looping permanent uptime with a surge to extend the hitbox, and it hits backliners. So Henry stops freezing. All your CC enemies just stop working. And you can't get that with any other Uber. Well, technically there is Asukazli, but Asukazli is a fraud because Dazzly is just better Asukazli. So there's a lot of things you can get from Dazzly that you can't get anywhere else. Like, yeah, Dazzly, people know, like I said this in my video that's gonna come soon, people know why Dazzly is broken. But do people really know how broken Dazzly is? Because even if we look at just damage stats, Dazzly's broken, of course, with those broken damage, broken survivability, and reach. But do you know about lasting hitbox? She's a 43% like uptime, counting like the point that starts when she hits to how long the surge lasts, where enemies just cannot move forward. 43% uptime where enemies just cannot play the game when you have Dazzly on the field because they get perma-juggled. Dazzly does not miss. If she hits a random peon, the surge spawns and it splashes everyone. Well, if your enemy's in knockback state, Phono attacks, Phono misses. He loses all the damage on that enemy. Dazzly just does not miss, unless she misses absolutely everything. Even if she hits a random dark doge, it's gonna splash everyone. So she cannot miss. And the curse disables abilities. Who else does that? Dazzly removes some of the hardest content in the game. And even though there is a counter surge to beat her, even though there is a surge immune to beat her, the fact that she breaks so much of this game and is not replaceable in the slightest with her broken stats, that's why she's the second best Uber in the game in my opinion. Only losing to Rog, because you can replace some of Dazzly's utility. You can replace the LD damage with the Phono or two. And Rog is completely irreplaceable. Dazzly is mostly irreplaceable. Also one of the most consistent units, because if you just use a Dazzly, what is she gonna do? She's not gonna like fail. She's always gonna do something. And think about it like this. At level 50, every surge does like 81k. Every time it attacks, you get an 81k damage surge at level 50. And that's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. Even if she dies after 5 hits, how much damage is that? That's hundreds of thousands of chip damage. So Dazzly can never go wrong. So yeah. Dazzly 2 might be a surprise to some of you. It's because Dazzly has a lot of depth to her. It's kind of deceptive in a way, because Dazzly has a super low, one of the lowest skill floors in the game. But she has a deceptively high skill ceiling. There's a lot of things you can do with Dazzly. Alright, time for number 3. Number 3. Who do you guys think I say is the third best Uber in the game? Also, this is Uber / Legend Rare. Okay, I totally gave it away, but this is an Uber / Legend Rare tier list, you know? So who do you guys think I have in third place? Yeah, I am gonna link the tier list after I'm done. This placement is also gonna shock you, but you're gonna notice a pattern. Well, I totally leaked the answer, but it would have shocked you. It would have shocked you. Yes, Salted, I gave it away. I'm stupid, but like, where is he? Where is he? Where the hell is he? I need to clean up my mistake fast enough so that people don't realize that I gave away the biggest secret of the year. Never mind, a bigger secret is where the hell is Izanagi on this goddamn list? Because I cannot find him. Maybe he's not on the list anymore. If this is Ubers only. No, I see Legaluga though. There gotta be Izanagi somewhere. Dude, I am blind. He should be near the bottom because he's newer, but... Chat, where is Izanagi? Can't find him. Oh, I found Izanagi. Okay. Izanagi 3. So here's the reason why Izanagi is 3 for me. And it's because it's kind of like if you had a unit that's like Phono, but it's also Balrog. And it's also Dazzly. And it's also Dphono. Like, Izanagi is the big 4 as one unit. And, well, that's an oversimplification. What really makes Izanagi this high for me is just crazy damage output. This is kind of what you guys think Dazzly is. Pure damage. Well, Dazzly is a lot more than that. Izanagi just is the pure damage. And it's crazy numbers. It's like triple Balrog hits on traded enemies. And you get Broken Conjure. This Conjure is super important. Because Izanagi is a super strong unit, so she's always at the front. And you can just Conjure on command, and you knock back, slow everything. It's a crazy strong ability. And just Izanagi has way too much stats. Like, this thing has like 200, almost 200,000 HP at like max level, I think. Maybe that's a bit too high, but it has a shit ton of HP. And does like a ton of damage. Yeah, it is kind of like ranged Balrog in a sense. But you can use Izanagi on a lot of stages. If you want to notice a pattern between these 3, I think the pattern you can go with is that all 3 of these fundamentally cannot be countered and work on every stage in the game. Except Izanagi on traitless. That does not work. And well, they don't beat metals either. Because, you know, duh. But the thing is, like, we look at a stage like Banagrios, for example. Izanagi will die. But how much damage is Izanagi gonna get off before he dies? He's gonna do a ton of damage. Like hundreds of thousands. Stupid amounts of damage to Banagrios before it goes down. So that doesn't mean, even though he died, that doesn't mean Banagrios countered him. Izanagi still won. And yes, these two Ubers do in fact lose to Saractes. They do lose to some stuff. But because they beat 99.9% of the game, besides those exception stages, that's good enough for me. Good enough for me. So these three are fundamentally like, if you bring them, you can't go wrong at all. They're always going to do crazy amounts of value. And that's why these three are an SSS tier. And this might be a little bit, what do I call this? A little bit misleading, but I named this tier unmatched. Anything in this tier cannot be matched. At least from my personal usage. None of these three Ubers or legend rares for Izanagi get matched by anything below them. And that's why I use them the most. They just win. they just win. Because this isn't about generalist value. This is about just a lot of what I prefer and personal stuff. Alright, next. Now here's a fun fact. This is everything in Unmatched. We're on to SS now. This is my big three. And I know, for most of you, a lot of the stuff in SS are going to be SSS for you. There's a lot of stuff here that should be here for you guys. But this is my personal tier list. This is meant under the context that the guy playing the game is canned juice, and it's not you. So if I'm playing the game, this is how it is. If you're playing the game, then a lot of these guys are triple S. But let's look at SS tier now. Which I will call this high usage. Because I do use these guys a lot. It's just these guys go in every lineup, basically. Now let's look. Who do you think is the highest rated Uber in SS tier? Knowing me. Knowing what I've established so far. This might be a hard question. Might be a hard question. Alright, I'll give you another hint. One more hint. Look at these three Ubers and which top Uber provides value even if you use all three of these. That's my hint for the fourth Uber on my list. Based around these three Ubers, because I build around them a ton. What Uber is going to give you a ton of value? Even with those three. All right, and you guys might think this is a bit deceptive, but and a lot of other, what do I call them, high level or like semi pro players I've talked to, a lot of them don't like this unit as much, but I have seen so much success with this unit. It fits a lot with my play style, and I just think he's really, really good. So we have Cosmo at number 4. Cosmo is really, really nice when I slot him in my lineups that hit these three guys. Because you know what we have here? We have our burst melee in Balrog. We got our strong mid-range damage in an Izanagi. We got our Dazzly for like that LD general DPS with the lasting hitbox. What are we missing? We're missing a super backliner. And that's where that's where Cosmo comes in. He's that super backliner, 850 standing, more Omni, and the guaranteed wave. That's why Cosmo's number 4 for me. And there's a lot of actual tech you can do with Cosmo that people don't explore because he's kind of like, at first glance, he seems like an automatic unit, you know? Like, click Cosmo, he's gonna fire shots, and you're gonna win. He does have really, really good stage compatibility. I will give him that. He works on every single hard stage in the end game. He works on a Banagrios, he works on a Soroctes, he works on literally every stage because the enemies can't touch him. He even outranges Luza Omni Strike, and that's kind of crazy. But yeah, he will always work, but he's kind of slow. He's not here because sometimes it's just more efficient for me to run a different Uber instead of a Cosmo. But he does do a lot, like, of the stuff I mentioned, and there's some cool tech you can do. For example, like, here's a tech that I do in particular that most people don't. So we know Cosmo has fast speed, you know, and sometimes he speed clips and gets himself killed, so that's not good, right? But what if I made it good? Because what I like doing a lot is I take Cosmo, my units are pushing a lot, and then I have Cosmo speed clip on purpose so that he hits the stuff ahead of time, and I can push forward without having Cosmo miss. So I clip Cosmo intentionally. And an easy way for me to do this, even if I'm running T-Bolt, click Izanagi's summon, Izanagi's conjure, knocks back and slows everything, and Cosmo clips forward. That is a combo I use, and it's a super satisfying combo. And it's really powerful because you can get Cosmo on the base and then he stops missing. And if Cosmo stops missing, he just kills everything. That's like the main caveat when you play with Cosmo. Yeah. Now, funnily enough, we're gonna round out the top 5 here. And my question to you guys, who do you think is next to fill out this top 5 spot? This guy is living in 2028. Who knows? Maybe this is the meta in the future, and I'm just ahead of time with the Izanagi number 3. So yeah, I'm just gonna let you guys guess who is in the number 5 spot. All right, there's been enough time. I will say one thing actually. Actually, no. Before I go down, I will say one more thing. I'll give you another hint. I hate this Uber, but I still think he's this good. I hate this Uber so much, but I think he's this good. So that's your hint. All right, there we go. Let's go find him. Let's go look and find Mr. Oh, come on. No, I can't not find him again. This is so dumb. I'm so bad at finding Ubers. We got a no. Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, it's the King of Destiny himself, Phono. So we got Phono at number 5 here. And the reason why Phono is number 5 is because he's Cosmo. And you might think that's kind of weird because I like things that are kind of like, I use them most optimally. So if Cosmo is number 4, then why Phono at number 5? And the reason for that is that I use them differently. A lot of the times I use Cosmo mainly for that wave. That wave is like a huge part of his kit for me. Phono I just use if I need range. And this guy does give you range too. But Phono is just, I feel like he's more consistent when you just want raw generalist backline damage for that regular Phono. Because a Cosmo, you do have to worry about clipping. Even as like a high skill expression player, you have to worry about him clipping through stuff. And that's kind of annoying. Phono is just the win button. You know, I hate this guy because there is absolutely nothing interesting about the regular Phono. But because his numbers are so stupidly high, he is this good. He is just that good. He is just that good. Crazy numbers. 600 standing is a ton of range. Cosmo's 850, yeah, but 600, you're outranging a lot. You got triple hit LD. And if Phono doesn't speed clip, or if the target stands still, he lands all 3 hits, and that's crazy DPS. But normally he'll land 2. 2 is a lot of damage. And just like Phono, he's a fast speed as well. Can you reach the front line? These two, very interchangeable for me. I will give you that. These guys are very interchangeable in placement. But I do think that from my personal experience, they are around, like, very similar units. Very similar units. Alright, guys. Who's next? This is such an obvious answer on who's next. This is such an obvious answer. We all know who's next now. There is no real debate on who comes next. Because you see these 5 guys here and 1 woman. We all know who's next, guys. It's no surprise. No surprise to absolutely anyone. Let me go find him. There we go. You are I'll place you later. Anyways, Yukimura is the 6th best Uber in the game for me. You guys liking that placement? He's the 6th best Uber in the game for me. I think Yukimura offers a lot, even in a game with Bahamut's Blast. Because Yukimura has like a lot faster of a cooldown. He is cheaper, so you can use them for different things. A Bahamut's like is like a very, very high commitment move for rusher chains and stuff. Very, very high commitment. Yukimura, extremely low commitment. You can just sack him. He can be played like Balrog. Plus, rusher spam, he reaches the front line, does a lot. And Yukimura, super slept on Uber nowadays. Because people keep saying, Bahamut Blast, he made Yukimura shit. You don't need Yukimura when you have Bahamut Blast. That's not true. Not true in the slightest, because guess what? It's the reverse. Bahamut Blast makes Yukimura even better. And you want to know why? Because you know what stops Yukimura? Peon spam. And you know what Bahamut Blast kills? Peon spam. And you know what? They both get to the front, they both hit stuff, they get knocked back. It's like a god chain. You can just god chain with Bahamut and Yukimura. And it does so much. It's completely broken. And you can even clip this guy. Like, this is extremely impractical for you guys. But keep in mind, this is my personal Uber tier list. So I clip Yukimura on the regular. And that sounds ridiculous for you guys. But I can do a lot with Yukimura. He is agency on demand. He can just change the game at any point if you use him correctly. With the Bahamut Blast as well. The Wombo combo is crazy. Crazy delivery. So yeah, Yukimura actually number 6 for me. Because in a way, even if you use Bahamut Blast, you're still gonna use a Yukimura because the combo is broken with both of them. And even sometimes, Bahamut Blast too long of a cooldown, you just want that Yukimura to assassinate something consistently. You can use a Rog, but a Yukimura just does it faster, and like, you can't fuck up a Yukimura. Maybe if you're like, you have the worst time and you can fuck him up. But even I can mess up a Balrog. I can't mess up a Yukimura because he'll just get knocked back and then he'll hit an enemy for like a ton of damage and rebound himself to death. One of the most automatic kind of units. So yeah, Yukimura, my number 6 spot. Number 6 spot for me. Very underrated Uber. You guys should appreciate Yukimura more. But I will be honest though. I will be completely honest in this sense. If this was a normal person's tier list, this is not right, man. This is not right if this is a normal person's tier list. If you're a normal person, this is what should be going on. This should be going on. It should be like a lot higher. D-Phono. D-Phono is getting shat on here. But I still think D-Phono really good though. And he is our number 7 spot. See, no more war crimes now. No more war crimes. D-Phono finally hit the list, guys. It's okay. It's okay. So we got D-Phono at number 7. And the reason why a Dphono here is at number 7, as I explained before, is it's kind of just like, we know Dphono, the jack of all trades. Extremely strong unit. One of the best in the game if you don't have much else. But if you do have other Ubers that are really, really strong, Dphono kind of like, he kind of feels like a compromise in power. You know what I'm saying? Well, you probably don't, because you probably only have a Dphono. And then he's like, oh, he's God, bro. Because Dphono really, 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 really good if you only have Dphono. But, you know, if I have a Dazzly and an Izanagi in the lineup, what is Dphono doing? He does good damage. He does pretty good CC. But do I really need that at that point? So Dphono is a question of, if I have all of these Ubers, because I do, by the way. If I have all of these, when is the time to use Dphono? If I want CC, I just click Izanagi's Conjure. Everything dies so fast that I never need the hard CC. But there is a time and a place for Dphono, because he has a long amount of range. So if I need high range in CC, we go for that Dphono. Because, like, you guys gotta understand, this is not a general tier list for everyone. This is my personal tier list based on what I use. If I'm just gonna reorganize these Ubers real quick. If this is general for like everybody, I think the order goes like this. I think Rog is still first, Dazzly is still second, Cosmo is probably third, Dphono then no. Actually no, wait. Something like this. Yeah, and then you're there, and Izanagi here, and then this is how it is for most people, I think. Rog is objectively first because you can't replace him. All these guys get replaced by each other. It's like a 5-man brawl on which guy is the best LD piercing DPS unit. Well, Rog you can't check Rog, you know, he's just Rog in here. Dphono, you probably like the utility because he does everything, so he'll probably be second. Dazzly is Dazzly. Everyone loves Dazzly. Plus, you can't get the curse anywhere else. We'll go. I think most people are gonna enjoy Cosmo more than a Phono, because he just has a little bit better stage compatibility. In like, he's just really good for stage clears. I feel like, and then you got Phono here. Don't sleep on Phono. Still really good. These two are very similar. Izanagi, harder to use. Number 6 because harder to use. And Yukimura, obviously, if you're like a regular player, I think the tier list looks like this. All these 6 units are so comedically broken, and then the next one is Yukimura. He's like a step down. I think this is how most people would put their lists. But remember, this is my personal list. And because it's my personal list, it's gonna look like this. Because this is what I use, you know? So I know what you guys probably like using. This is just what I like using, you know? It's my personal Uber tier list. So, based on like this, actually, I'm not sure if you guys can guess that well, because this probably is like a giant mindfuck that you guys seeing, especially this in particular is confusing for you guys, but it's just kind of how I play the game, you know. So, after Dphono, this is an obvious big 7, I think. I think it's quite obvious that this has to be the top 7 in the game, you know? No matter what order you do, these guys are just a power level. Well, for most people, not Yukimura, but these 6 guys are above everyone else in power, I think. Not Yukimura, but for me, it is Yukimura over that Dphono, because he's a bit too general for me. So we're gonna move on to some not as big Ubers, you know? Smaller Ubers, but still powerful Ubers. Alright. Go to number 8. Who do you guys think's number 8? Who do you guys think is number 8? Remember, this operates as I'm the one who's playing, and I have a lot of these Ubers. So now we have to guess who is number 8. Who was number 8, given all these big boy Ubers at the top? That's my question. Question to you. And I'll tell you what it is. I will tell you what it is. It's an Uber that I have all of these. And think about it. What is not covered, in a sense, from a generalist standpoint? What isn't covered? And the answer to that question is simply specialist isn't covered. Okay, that's kind of silly to say it out there, but we got Luna at number 8. Luna's a super strong unit. Fucking broken unit, honestly. Luna is a crazy unit. Breaks progression harder than anything else, I'd argue. Because you get a free clear on Albi Bug, get a free clear on Baja Blast. And she hits Relic too, so you get a free clear of Ural's True Form. Luna is a crazy broken progression unit. But we don't care about progression, because I have all these guys. So why is Luna number 8 then? Why is Luna number 8? And to answer that question, she is number 8 because she bullies the hell out of 4 traits. Even in endgame, those 4 traits she targets stop getting to play the game. No more floating, no more relic, no more zombie, and what's the last one? Is it alien? I think it's alien. Let me check. I don't use the last trait the most. I mainly use her for relic, floating, and zombie. But I think let's do a little check. So we take a look at Luna. It is alien. Wait, she doesn't hit floating? Wait, I'm stupid. Of course it's alien. She doesn't hit floating, but she beats Baja Blast because he's fucking alien. I'm kind of stupid, bruh. Wait, no, he's not alien. She just wins anyways. Okay, I'm kind of tripping, guys. She doesn't hit floating at all. But I'm going to be completely honest. It doesn't matter that she doesn't hit floating. Because she kills floatings anyways. Because of Blast, you know? Look at a Brawlo fly in, dies to one shot to the Blast. So she beats floating anyways. It doesn't matter she doesn't target that. So she targets a red, alien, relic, and zombie. So let's go through them one by one. Red, I think she's probably the best bruiser answer to red in the game. If you need something to get in on red enemies and then do damage, Luna is really good there. Then we look at alien. She's gonna win. Alien is just not hard. I'm gonna be honest with you. Alien is not hard when you have a lot of these Ubers, because aliens are pretty balanced enemies. Zombie is a very, very important one with zombie, because a lot of anti-zombies in this game kind of suck. And the best ones, like a Subterra or an Aether, for example, Mighty Crystal Moo, good anti-zombie, but that's kind of all they do. And it's if they miss, it's kind of devastating. They all have their own weaknesses. Luna is just Luna is unconditionally broken against all 4 of her traits. So she might be the actual best anti-zombie in the game. Is not an Iron Legion, but just Luna, because she has Blast, she is Z-Kill, she is strong against them, and she is broken stats. So she might be the best anti-zombie in the game. And then Relic, of course. Sometimes you just want to fuck with the relics, even though they're a pretty easy trait. Luna got you covered. So Luna's really good. We'll hit a number 9 now. Number 9. What do you guys think is number 9? Number 9's gonna be an interesting placement, I think. Not many of you guys, actually no, some of you guys might get it, but I don't think most of you guys are gonna get this number 9 placement. But some of you guys are gonna get this. I definitely think that is for sure. Alright, let's go get my number 9 now. And there we go. We got Kronos at number 9. Kronos is a very nice unit, because even if you have all of these guys, it's still LD and freeze, and she has a speed up talent, so she can reach the front line. and she supports all these guys very well. It's a very, very good support Uber. So you get those Chronos freezing, and guess what? Raw gets more hits, Yuki gets more hits, Dazzly more hits, Nagi more hits, Cosmo more hits. Well, not really. He always lands his hit, but you get the idea. All your units just work better with a Chronos freeze. She's kind of like a T-bolt cannon. If you just had like a machine that randomly shot T-bolts at all your traded enemies. So Chronos can be useful even with all these guys. Plus, if you want CC, I usually opt for a Chronos. Usually, I prefer this over a Dephono because I have Izunagi's summon. So I can do summon plus freeze while this is just 2 slows, you know? So that's why I like Chronos a lot. Very, very good combo synergy unit. If you notice, like, a lot of the rankings I have here are because of a certain playstyle. I play with these 3 a lot, and I like synergizing around these 3 Ubers in Legend Rare, because Izanagi. I like synergizing around these 3 units a lot because they're just super powerful. And they get even more powerful when comboed correctly. So that's why these are here to kind of help. So we got Chronos number 9. Not too surprising of a pick. Now let's round out the top 10. The fan favorite unit. Where is he? Where is he? You guys have been waiting for him. You guys have definitely been waiting for him. Oh, come on. Come on. Where is he? I can't believe I'm this blind, guys. This must be embarrassing for you guys to watch. I cannot find comes after Saki. No. Dude, where is he? Chat. Oh wait, he's on the right side. I just saw that. Okay. So where on the right side is Lasvos? Lasvos gotta be here, man. He gotta be here. He's above is. Oh, found him. Thank you, chat. We found Lasvos. The final member of my personal top 10 is Lasvos. There we go. And I don't think this needs much explanation. Lasvos, if you need damage, you go Lasvos. If you need raw damage and absolutely nothing else, you go Lasvos. Reason why he's not all the way higher and just number 10, because, you know, when you have this level of power, you don't need to gamble for RNG. But sometimes you just want raw damage, and there's those moments where Lasvos, even if he doesn't Savage Blow, he just does so much damage that it's worth bringing anyways. And sometimes you can afford to gamble without, like, losing anything in return, so you can run that Lasvos. Also a very fun unit to run. It's always fun one-shotting stuff. So Lasvos is quite a fun unit to use sometimes. No, I do think it's quite a nice unit. Very, very nice unit. Lasvos should be... Oh yeah, and the combo too. The combo too. I honestly don't use the combo that much, but it's a nice combo if I want to go for 5x research, which is rare, but sometimes it happens. Oh yeah, and I forgot to do something actually. Lasvos is not SS. He's just S for me. The reason why is, well, I already explained why. RNG unit, like all these guys, super consistent units when I play the game, because like I have a good amount of experience with all of these Ubers. Lasvos, he's still got that RNG mechanic, so he's gonna go in S, but he's definitely the top of S, you know? We can't take away RNG from Lasvos, but he's still a damn good unit. Still a damn good unit. Alright, following up with Lasvos. This is a placement I love. Not Lasvos. Well, I do like Lasvos at 10, but this placement afterwards, I love this placement. Okay, guys, we got our top 10 set in stone. Guess what you think I have at number 11. This is going to be a crazy placement. It's going to surprise so many of you. But you guys can guess anyways. Who do you think I have at number 11? Right outside that top 10. Actually, I don't think I'm gonna give you guys like a good amount of time to guess, but I do not think you guys are gonna get it. I do not think you guys are gonna get it at all. This is a placement that is near and dear to me, and it's also a placement that I feel like is kind of unique to me. Like some people can understand this placement, but a lot of people don't go with it, you know? And I'll give you guys a tiny little bit more time to guess. Also, do not say the same unit more than once. Like, don't spam the chat if you think it's a certain unit. No one has said the unit so far, but that's my one hint, is that nobody has said the unit so far. So be creative with what you think is next. Do 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 do. All right, nobody has gotten the unit, but I gotta like place it now. So I'm gonna go find him. It's a him, by the way. This might take a while because I don't want to spoil it, but it's a very fun reveal. Very, very fun reveal. I will say that. Okay. At number 11, we have Thunderjack. Thunderjack is a really, really strong unit. Super underrated unit, by the way. This unit goes crazy. Crazy good unit. And I get a ton of value off this unit because this unit gets so much better when you support him properly. He just melts the whole stage. He just beats the heck out of them. Fire punches. Just moves forward. He force pushes the way and all the stages just die. You support him well. He's a super supreme unit. And like his knockback ability goes crazy hard on certain enemies. He can just pin them to the base and then they just can't do anything. He can knock back stuff from your side to the enemy's side. And he has broken stats. Tons of damage. Like, even with all of these units, all of these broken top 10 units, I still use the Thunderjack. Because if I want something that just force hard pushes that front line, we go Thunderjack. And he does a lot. Yeah, exactly. He's literally a JoJo character. Punches his way through everything. And I got a ton of value out of this Thunderjack. Because think about the plays we can make here with a Thunderjack. Think about like Rog moving down the field. Izanagi's there, can click that conjure. We got a Chronos freezing stuff maybe. Maybe like Cosmo's wave is incoming. Yukimura as well. And guess what? They're all like fighting at the front line. Thunderjack can get right in there. Start beating the shit out of everything in front of him. And just keeps moving forward. It keeps moving forward. Nothing's stopping these guys. Super fun unit as well. I will say, if this is a general list for most people, this guy is not, he's not the 11th best Uber in the game, I'm gonna be honest. But for me, I love Thunderjack, man. He's such a fun unit, and he's such a broken unit when you combo him well. This guy's like the synergy, man. Crazy. Also, yeah, and he does not, as someone said in chat, little investment, does not even have a true form. He's only going to get better. He's a second form unit that's not a fest, and he's still this strong for me. You just gotta use him well. And you guys are never going to get this, but where is she? Actually, no. I'm gonna have you guys guess because it's kind of funny. Okay, guess who the next unit is. Who the 12th best Uber is. This is really funny. Guess who the 12th best Uber is. So We have Thunderjack at 11. You know who goes at number 12? Another Thunderjack. Another Thunderjack is 12. We have Chun-Li as the 12th best Uber in the game. And this is absolutely crazy to anyone who is not me. But a lot of people I've talked to who are very experienced with Ubers, they kind of understand where I'm coming from when I do this. But you have to play the game in a certain way for Chun-Li to be this high. Because Chun-Li does a shit ton of stuff. She is Thunderjack 2. But guess what? She has more damage than Thunderjack, but he has 3 knockbacks. It's like a trade-off between which one is better. But in conclusion, both of them are broken. And I'm gonna be honest, if you pair Chun-Li with Thunderjack, that is one of the most broken combos in the entire game. Especially if you add support like a Kronos. But even without it, enemies they cannot play the game. They're being hit with a ton of damaging hitboxes, fast speed, rapid jabs. In a way, it's, if you go Chun and Jack, they attack so fast with medium damage hits rapidly, it's basically Dazzly. But if Dazzly was 2 units that are super fast rushers. So these guys, their answers push that front line. Some of the best rusher units in the game. Now, I'm not gonna stall this. This is kind of obvious, but the next unit is Trixie. These units are crazy broken. The next unit is Trixie. Yep, there she is. Triple Jack in S tier. 11, 12, and 13 is just Thunderjack 3 times in a row. That is how broken Thunderjack is. Super, super strong units. And Trixie is different. Trixie has different stats from these two. These two, super similar stats. Super similar. Different target traits, but they do the same thing, kind of. Except this guy's tanky, this guy, and Chun-Li has 3 knocks. Trixie, lower damage. It's a lot lower damage, but she has area attack. And she has the freeze ability. So Trixie, she's actually not here, not because she is a Jack. She's here because she basically solos 3 traits in the game. So, you know why Luna is in this double S? Because she beats up 4 traits, and is also wave blocker, by the way, if I didn't mention that. Best wave blocker in the game. I don't need Yami anymore because I have Luna. Literally. But yeah, Luna broken against 4 traits and great generally. Trixie, broken against 3 traits. We turn the number down 1, and she goes down 1. It's still good generally. Very good generally. Not as good as Jack and Chun, but still great generally. So that's why Trixie is my 13th best Uber. This is not for everyone. You can tell based on this playstyle. This is kind of imagine Pokemon. This is hyper offense. Look at all this offense here. And the only reason why support is here is to boost the offense. Kronos is literally like a spiker or a baton passer. So yeah, it's quite a punching start from 11, 12, 13. All right, next up, next up, I'm gonna say no more punching because we've gone through all 3 of them. Who do you guys think is next? At this point, it's kind of like that tier, where it's there's a lot of good Ubers. They could go here or there. Who are there? Who do you guys think is next at the top? Could be a lot of Ubers. Could be a lot of Ubers. And I think that where is anyways, there we go. We got Darktanian next. Darktanian at number 14 for my list. Darktanian, you kind of already know why Darktanian is this good. If you were playing the game for a while, because he used to be arguably the best or second best Uber in the game back then. I think in the period before Dazzly came into the game, or around that time, because people underrated Dazzly on launch, that time where Mitama was the best Uber, you could argue D'Artagnan was the best Uber as well. Like, that was a period where D'Artagnan was definitely on top. D'Artagnan, really, really good Uber. We all know why. Rusher with LD, too much health. This guy should not be living the Surge base at level 30, but he just does anyways. Too much health. And good amount of range, good amount of reach, broken DPS with the Strengthen, and easily the best traitless counter in the game. And I'm going to be honest. Compared to every specialist in the game, I think D'Artagnan ruins his niche, like, way harder than anything else. Like, Dart on a traitless is so unfair for the traitless enemies that it's, like, comedic. Like, this guy just has way too much damage against traitless that every other traitless specialist, you will never need them. Even if you have Hitman Cat, you'd rather run D'Artagnan because he'll just kill them instantly. It is so absurdly strong against traitless. This is starting where we're going to see, like, the top tier specialists. But D'Artagnan, amazing generalist anyways, and just rusher value. If you want LD rusher, then I run a D'Artagnan. Anti-traitless, run a D'Artagnan. Very, very strong unit. And a lot of people love D'Artagnan. I know from, like, community opinion that, like, some of these are fan favorites, like a D'Artagnan, Lazvos, Defono, Yuki. Well, Yuki kind of, you know, it's kind of sad he's not a fan favorite anymore, because a lot of people think Baja Blast killed him. But I still think Yuki very good, and Rog, fan favorites, Dazzly. Dazzly's not really anyone's fan favorite, but I respect Dazzly. Next up, after the D'Artagnan, some of you guys were hoping for this unit a lot earlier, but I said we're at D'Artagnan, right? We're at here, where we're finally reaching the strongest specialists in the game. So if we put D'Artagnan aside, who do you guys think is the strongest specialist in the game? Who is the specialist who is the singly best at destroying their niche? That is my question. And, well, the answer to that question, of course, is it's Kaguya. Kaguya at number 15 on my tier list. Because guess what? You put Kaguya in the lineup, you don't need to worry about medals ever again. This unit beats every single medal stage in the game, and it's unconditional. Nanaho, LD, could go in the blind spot. 50% crit chance, not gonna crit sometimes. Kaguya, guaranteed metal killer, spammable, you just beat up all the metal enemies, no worries. And with area attack, this is the only metal Uber in the game that actually counters metal doge. Like, this beats up metal doge because you just spam it and the metal doges all get knocked back. Nanaho, the metal doge runs in her blind spot, starts biting away at her, and then you just regret life. This is unconditional metal doge counter, and it counters the entire trait. It's like, you know how, like, D'Artagnan is easily the best anti-traitless in the game for me? This is easily the best anti-metal. In, like, the gap between D'Artagnan and, like, say a Black Zeus, for example, who I think is the second best anti-traitless, that gap isn't too big. It's still noticeable, but the gap between Kaguya and every other anti-metal in the game is, like, massive. Kaguya is way, way better than everything else. So Kaguya is super, super strong at killing metal enemies. So if you're in a position like me where you have a ton of stuff in the game, you're gonna run Kaguya for those metal enemies. Even if it's super niche, there is nothing that hits like Kaguya on those metals. So that's there. Of course, with a follow-up, got a bit of an underrated Uber. So now I'll have you guys all guess. Who's an underrated Uber who has a lot of health? Think about it. Who has a lot of health and is underrated? That's who's next. I'm gonna get you guys to say it. We're all gonna say it. There we go. It's your boy. It's we got Hades next. Hades that's that's 16. Hades at 16. And the reason why is Hades does not die. If you want a full wall on a stage, Hades will not die. If you have Uber supporting like a Kronos and Izanagi, he just does not die. This is the best tank in the game for full walling. Like, something like Kai might do a lot more damage, but Hades does not die ever. Kai on mixed stages is gonna like die sometimes. Hades just does not die. He physically is incapable of dying if you have like what I have. And because of that, you can just full wall the front lines. Enemies that are like you require tanks, nope, Hades in their face. And like it's all just full wall. No like questionable activity with enemies beating up your meat shields. Just go Hades. And a lot of people don't use Hades correctly, you know? I will say this for a tip on using Hades. If Hades at the front line, you still want to meat shield. Because if you view it like this, every like say you have Hades at the front line and it's like, oh, I have my biggest tank. He can tank it all. I don't need a meat shield anymore. No, you still should meat shield. And the reason why is like, let's say even it's just Doge Dark at the front line. Every time Doge Dark hits a Manic Eraser or a meat shield, that's 20,000 more health added to your Hades health pool because it wasn't taken off of him. So every time you meat shield and protect Hades at the front line, he just has more health. And then you can use that health to full wall certain hard to wall enemies. So Hades is a really, really strong wall for that reason. So I think Hades is really cool because of that. Probably my favorite tank at just being a tank. But you know, on the polar opposite, we do got a fan favorite unit here. Well, not a fan favorite, but an up and coming fan favorite who also has a lot of HP. And that is, of course, gotta find their fan favorite unit. There we go. Hell Warden Emma. Hell Warden Emma has gone up the meta a lot. People are starting to finally realize this unit's good. Because it's probably the best weakener in the game. Like if we look down my chart so far, right? Like what do we have covered in crowd control? Dazzly with the curse. We got Dephono with the slow. We got Kronos with the freeze. Who's our weakener? And the answer is Hell Warden Emma. Very good weakener. Gets to the front line, weaken waves, get those enemies to half damage. Like you want a tank, not really a tank. Hades for full walling. Emma is a support tank. She is not meant to tank the enemies. She's there to weaken them so your other stuff can tank the enemies. And it's that really good synergy that you get out of an Emma. You get lots of great synergy because of that. But I will say, for a normal playthrough, she's very kind of expensive for those talents because you have to get wave and you have to get weakened. So it's kind of like, I don't like buying those talents on a casual playthrough. But for like where I'm at in an end game with a lot of Ubers, this definitely pays off for the Hades talents. I mean the Emma talents. Hades talents are kind of just by HP. You don't need anything else. Emma has very nice talents. Good weakener. Very good weakener. Oh wait, I just realized X-School is here. Hello X-School. We are doing the most like weirdest personal Uber tier list, but it's really fun. So that's why I'm doing it. It's not meant as a guide or general for everyone. It's just for me. So that is my tier list right now. All right, the next placement is a bit of a toss-up. Okay, guys, guess like anything now for the next placement because this is a fun placement. I think this is one of my favorite placements on the list, I think. Because, you know, this unit is... I feel like when people are making, like, some of the higher ranking lists, this unit flies under the radar. Because it's a really strong unit, but a lot of people don't really acknowledge it, you know? So, that's kind of an interesting unit to go this high. And I think I've given you guys enough time, so I'm going to find that unit now. Alright, here we go. Coming in after a Hell Warden Emma, we got Count Yukimura, our first seasonal Uber, and by first I mean the only season, not the only seasonal Uber, but one of the only competent seasonal Ubers. We have Count Yukimura. Like, Who thinks of this guy when you're making a top 20 for Ubers in the game? Who thinks of this dude? But he goes crazy. Because if we do a comparison, Count Yukimura with that true form, he's kind of like a Yukimura without the strengthen, but with survive, guaranteed survive. And guaranteed survive on a rusher is crazy good. It is crazy good. Oh, that's a good name actually, Spooky Mura. That's a fire name. But yeah, Count Yukimura. I already explained why Bahamut does not make Yukimura worse, but actually makes him better. So you know what? If that's the case, why not double Yukimura? Why not triple rushers? And it sounds stupid, but if you think about it, every rusher just makes the other one better. So Count Yukimura is gonna go in there, and even without Yukimura, without Bahamut Blast, he's got his own purposes because, like, floating, he demolishes floating. It's like crazy. We do have our existing floating counters in, like, I guess nobody here, but floating's not that hard sometimes. I use the Izanagi a lot for floating, but even if we need like a floating rusher, we got that Count Yukimura, and the guaranteed survive is huge, because sometimes there's like stuff that just one-shots your Yukimura. It's not gonna happen with this guy. He'll get it on another hit. So Count Yukimura, quite a strong unit in the right hands. Plus you can play around him with support. And keeping the theme of rushers and keeping the theme of units nobody expects. How about another rusher that literally no one is going to think of for our next placement? That unit is going to be a... Where is... Can't find him. This guy should not be hard to find. He should not be hard to find at all. Oh man, I truly am blind, guys. I think I need to get like laser eye surgery because I clearly cannot see any of the goddamn Ubers in the game. I'm gonna park here. Where is he? Oh my god. Oh, there we go. There we go. It's Isan Boshi. Yeah, it's Boshi. Yeah, Changer, you're correct. Dude, Changer, you literally... You've seen this tier list before. You know everything because I showed it to you first. But we got Isan Boshi next, who got a true form pretty recently, and it's just damage up. And Isan Boshi, 2 trait rusher, it's a bit different from like from a Yuki or a Count Yuki because I don't think his generalist is too good, but he's really good traitless rusher, really good angel rusher. So if I see 2 of those traits, I'm gonna pull out the Boshi. He's gonna do a lot. And maybe occasionally I'll use him in like some rusher comp, but usually I'll use like these guys first, you know. But a Boshi still very, very good as a trait specialist. I did mention now that starting from around here, we're looking to best trait specialists. We got our D'Artagnan for the traitless. We got our Kaguya from the metals. We got our Count Yuki for the floatings. We got our Boshi for more traitless in case I need a rusher, which I guess he is a rusher, but mainly for the angels. Plus, you can pair these guys together if you want even faster traitless clears. But afterwards, you know the drill. You guys know the drill. We have Isan Boshi, number 2, in everyone's favorite, It's Saito, but I can't find him. It's Saito, but I can't find him. Oh yeah, and yeah, the good thing you mentioned that X-Skull. Isan does not have talents now, so if you get 20% stats boost, that's gonna mean a lot because rushers benefit a ton from more stats. They benefit a ton from that. But I cannot find Saito. Wait, what collab is Saito from? He's from Kenshin, right? So he should be where the Kenshin Ubers are, if I'm not blind. There we go. We got Saito next. Saito, very, very good rusher. 2 traits, Aku and Red. So like Aku and Red get beaten up pretty convincingly, and I love the Omni Strike and the Shield Pierce. 100% Shield Pierce, that's all you need. Is my go-to Aku counter. And also pretty solid anti-Red. Red is not a particularly hard trait, But he's nice sometimes for killing like those Professor A's. Can rush down red energy sometimes. Very, very nice Saito. Yeah, so we got Saito now. How many Ubers do we have? This is 10. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. This is our top 20, guys. Frog, Dazzly, Izanagi, Cosmo, Phono, Yukimura, Dphono, Lunacia, Kronos, Last Voss, Thunderjack, Chun-Li, Trixie, D'Artagnan, Ultra Kaguya, Hades, Emma, Count Yuki, Isan Boshi, and then Hajime Saito. That is our top 20. We still got a few more though, and I'm not gonna bait you guys into guessing anymore. I'm just kind of like gonna go forward because we're gonna be here all day if I don't do that. We got Lufaland Pasaland next. Lufaland Pasaland is quite the interesting unit. Some of you guys might know that I'm quite like a big fan of this guy. Back then, when like there was a lot less power keep, like no Cosmo back then, no Luna. I kind of argued back then that Luffy could have been top 10. He could have been top 10. But I do think that he's only top 10 if you look at him like for a stage compatibility thing. Because like he has really good stage compatibility. Works on Saractes. He works on Banagrios. He just outranges a lot of stuff. Works on Kuala Lumpur 3-star because you can just slap that camel. Very good stage compatibility. But if we have all of these, he's not too good. But he still has his moments. Because there are moments that you need good range, high range DPS. That is sometimes not based on a trait. So we got our Luffy moments. Not always going to be used, but Luffy has his time to shine. So Luffy, great unit. I think Luffy is actually better in a different methodology than the one I have right now. But he's still very strong with my current methodology of the one on this list. Following Luffy, we have, she has been neglected for far too long. On this list, we finally have Mitama. Mitama at 22. This is like war crimes for a general list. But Mitama's at 22 because, you know, like, if we have all of these some of the top tier specialists, we don't need Mitama that much. And besides, if I want slow, I go Dphono. So if I want slow, I just run my Dphono. Mitama doesn't see much use. I think Mitama is one of the best Ubers in the game if you have limited Ubers. Because, like, you can't get as many roll covered from a Mitama as, like, a lot of other stuff. But Dphono is kind of like that direct upgrade to a Mitama. Even though the slow is better on Mitama, Dphono just has much more other stuff. So Mitama at 22. If this was a general list, if I'm being honest, in a general list, she's probably, like, up here in that top 10 for, like, general stuff. Probably, like, above a Kronos. Maybe below a Last Boss. Maybe above him, too, though. Like, Mitama's a top 10 probably in, like, a normal general person's beating stuff. But because I have all of this stuff, Mitama's down here. This is my personal list. Yeah, Mitama and Dphono in general, both, like, compromised power. It's just Dphono's still really strong even then. Because if you have a lot of other stuff, it's just about what still works the best. And next, we have the last unit that goes in S. I'll have you guys guess what is the last unit that goes in S while I write the description for A+. A+ is going to get a fantastic new description, which is rarely used, which kind of sounds messed up when you think about it. A+ is really good. If I have all of these though, I'm not gonna use A+ that much, but A+ is still fantastic. If you roll an A+ Uber, you're like, hell yeah, I got one of the strongest units in the game at doing this specific thing, you know? So A is that strong unit, and the final unit in that S tier, we actually have Kai. Kai is the last unit in this S tier. And the reason why Kai is here is similar to a Hades. Very reliable tank. One of the best tanks in the game. I think if you're looking for tanks that are like just good at walling stuff, you got a Hades and you got a Kai. Those two are the best for just walling stuff. And Emma is a very good bulky unit too, but she's not good at wall. But Kai, the thing you look for with Kai compared to these two is damage. Kai is really good for assassinating enemies. You get Kai to like bounce to their face and they get hit smacked with like 200 or 200k damage, or even more if you have a lot of more levels. And that's really good for assassinating stuff. Plus the general bulk, general damage makes Kai a great unit for assassinating stuff if you don't need speed. Usually you'll use a Yukimura, but sometimes you want that one shot because Kai has like stupidly high base damage. So Kai serves that purpose. And also just like broken anti-Aku, broken anti-floating when she got those against those trait talents. I mean trait targets, but the Aku talents of course makes her good against those Aku. So Kai is our last one for S. And welcome to A+. Not much description going on here. I'm just kind of gonna drag him onto the tier list and give a brief explanation. No more like guessing games, guys. Hope you guys had fun with those, but moving on now. Eva 02 is the first one here in A+. And I think Eva 02 is the best anti-red in the game. Sure, we got Saito higher, but he's mostly for anti-Aku. I think Eva 02, very, very strong anti-red, lots of reach, extremely high damage. Luna does target red, but Eva 02, if you want that LD giant nuke damage to red, you go Eva 02, does not disappoint. Still great damage to everything else as well. And following him, we have a underdog here. I don't think most people would put him this high, but I just really like this unit, you know? And that's gotta be quite a new Uber in Hattori Hanzo. I like Hanzo a lot. He's probably my favorite anti-floating, if I need a specific anti-floating, because he has enough range to outrange those backliners, but he has a fast attack rate to kill those smaller enemies, and that freeze is super nice. The Hanzo freeze makes dealing with enemies a lot more tolerable. Well, it's not too strong, but it's just nice, you know? It's like that quality of life from like a Shadow Gao. From a Shadow Gao, quality of life. So I really like what Hanzo does. Most people, he's probably not as good as anything near this, but he's a very nice quality of life unit, you know? And following up, okay, technically, Windy is the best anti-floating. But Hanzo is my favorite anti-floating. I'll put it like that. He's my favorite one for like basic usage. Because Windy is the best against a boss like Siroctes, where you need hard anti-floating. But if you have like floating like small peons, Windy's kind of like overkill. Like a Hanzo is a balance, so that he counters all of the floatings. Also hits black too. And like the freeze against black is very nice, because he usually one hit knockback them, and you get very good control over black enemies. But speaking of black enemies, we have Kana. Kana is the best anti-black in the game, I think. Kana, I'd say, is the best anti-black, even better than Yukimura, because she just nukes tons of damage on the black enemies. Yukimura, though, is still strong enough to the point where like you don't need Kana too much, but if you have giant groups of black enemies, Kana just is a melt button. Tons and tons of damage from that massive damage ability. And the Behemoth Slayer, strong anti-Behemoth pick. And notice everything else above her does not have Behemoth Slayer, so you want that strong Behemoth Slayer Uber with a decent speed as well, because I do think Sodom is a pretty good anti-Behemoth, but he's slow as hell. So we got that Kana instead. Kana, very strong. Also, yeah, this does not factor in Dojo because I just hate the Dojo. Next up, we got Blanca. You guys might have thought Blanca was up here, but for me, he is just, not as good as these guys. Because Blanca, just alien, while these guys double trait, and Yukimura has good generalist. Blanca, I feel like I don't like him generally as much as a Saito, even though he probably has better stats than Saito generally for most people, but Saito has a more important niche, so Blanca still really good. I use him sometimes for aliens, so we'll go into A+ for me. Following up the Blanca, we have my go-to anti-angel, bruh. It's one of the earliest units. She should not be hard to find. There we go. Alright, I just had to sneeze real quick, but Yeah, Kalisa's not an S. She's A plus right here. Probably my go-to anti-angel unit. I really like Kalisa. Fast movement speed and the good range to outrange a winged piggy. And like with support of some stuff, she can even hit Sleipnir, and that's a really good way to counter it. But it does need support. So Kalisa's not the only anti-angel I use. But similarly, we're gonna put another Galaxy Gal here, and Windy finally hitting the list in A plus as well. I think Windy is the best raw anti-floating in the game. If you need hard anti-floating, you just go Windy. No floating is going to live at all against Windy. And I do have Hanzo higher, but he's 2 traits, and also is just like a more balanced unit if we're dealing with small peons as well. Windy is more so for like a big, strong threats like a Soroctes. Then following up with a Windy, got our boy. Where is he? Should be somewhere. There we go. Black Zeus. Black Zeus also a strong anti-traitless, like Darktanian. Normally Darktanian and Inisumboshi too. Good enough for everything. But if I need over like 450 plus range, like against a Manic Eraser, then we go Black Zeus. Because these guys will just die to a Manic Eraser. And Black Zeus is going to live. So the Black Zeus is like very strong anti-traitless. I just use Dark more, but he is still very strong enough to earn his own niche for my usage. Following that up, we have my favorite legend rare in a where is she? Where is she? My favorite legend rare. There she is, Gaia the Creator. Gaia the Creator is like one of those units where you kind of don't need a user in my position, because look at everything I have. It's like, why would you use Gaia? And the answer is she still has more DPS than a Phono. She has more DPS than anything. That's like ranged LD. Well, not even that LD, just kind of LD. Ranged kind of LD damage against traded. So even though she is hard to use, she can like miss some of the multi-hits. There's still a time and place where I bring that Gaia just for raw damage, you know? Oh yeah, and if you guys are wondering, since we're not here yet, Close But No Cigar is like units that I acknowledge as great units. These are like fantastic units. I just don't personally use them because like I have no need to use them when I have all of these guys, but that does not take away from them being fantastic units. That's what Close But No Cigar is for. Like units that I thought about at least, that I had to consider, but then decided ultimately like I don't really use them. So anything here, not bad unit at all. I just don't really like use it that much, you know. And after Gaia the Creator, got another legend rare in Ushi. And I think Ushi, I don't use second form Ushi because I have Kalisa, you know. I only use first form Ushi. He's mainly just spam button, kill angels. Because sometimes you don't want to use your brain with timing. Sometimes you just want Kasajizo, but he has resist against angels, so he's more consistent than Kasajizo. So I use Ushi on those anti-angels. And next, this is a shocker, but we got Ramiel. The reason why Ramiel is here is because of the Omni Strike, of course. Hits up to 1,500 range. It's a lot of range. And he does do good into floating, but I have Windy and I have Hanzo already. So the reason why Ramiel here is mainly just he clears peons really, really well. Because, you know, if you have a stage with a ton of like floating peons, just Ramiel one-hit nuke and they're all gone. It's a clean field now. And Cosmo can do the same with a wave, but Ramiel does it like kind of better. Because Ramiel is just LD. Cosmo, he can actually kind of miss the wave if you mess it up. So I have Ramiel there for that one purpose. And next up, we got another legend rare. We got like almost 3 in a row, if not for Ramiel. But Ramiel is a pretty legendary unit, so I'd qualify that. Got Mighty Crystal Moon next. This is like my go-to anti-zombie. That's not Luna. Like Luna is a great anti-zombie, but if I want like something just to stay in the back and deal with those zombies, then we got a 3D printer right there, just to clean up. Like in Speechless Tongues, if I use a Luna, she's kind of gonna walk forward, but a Mighty Crystal Moo in the back line just gonna stay there, deal with all those zombie enemies really, really well. And the wave block is kind of nice as well, even though I use Luna for wave block, so not really that. And then next up, we got a pair of twins. Not really twins, but pair of 2 girls. And that is... Where the heck? We got Saki. And we got the other Saki as well. kind of self-explanatory what I use the Sakis for. Just if you need a counter to like these traits and you need like LD, need big damage and like long range, you go Asaki. This one is good for a red, zombie, alien, or relic, and this one's good for floating or black. I think angel as well. So the Sakis are quite good. Next up, we got Herachrist. Very underlooked unit, actually. Herachrist is quite a powerful unit. It's kind of like this mid-ranged esque Balrog unit, which he does a ton of damage per hit. But like Herachrist, kind of gimmicky, janky to use, but does a ton of damage per hit and is great into the target traits. I think Herachrist got relic targeting pretty recently. Very good relic nuker, but before that, always good into alien and just like very nice high damage in general. Herachrist is quite nice. Next up, we got a certain Warlock and Pier. I use Warlock and Pier sometimes, kind of like how I use Black Zeus. It can be used as a ranged anti-trait list, but also just anti-alien. That's for Mad Dr. Clay, the third form, but the first form I use for base cheesing sometimes, you know? Sometimes you just want to skip a stage, you can cheese the base with a Warlock and Pier. So I use Warlock and Pier for that reason. And then following that up, we got Big Man. We got Hanayama right here. Hanayama, very, very good anti-Aku. Like, big stats, tanks it all, and fires back big hits. So the enemies get disintegrated with Hanayama. The only drawback of why Saito is up here and Hanayama is down here is because like it's kind of like in a quality of life or general sense. If Hanayama misses a hit, you lose like a ton of stuff because he is large TBA. You're kind of just left waiting and he takes a bit of damage. Saito is much more consistent with landing hits, so I use Saito a lot more for anti-Aku, but if I was using one on Heinous Road, for example, I'd go with the Hanayama. Or if I want him to just assassinate, like a Midnight D runs to the front, and I just want to take out Midnight D instantly, just hit him in the face with Hanayama. Like, he has his moments, but I use Saito more. Yeah, so Hanayama, quite a good unit. This is actually kind of a funny pick as well. We got Street Fighter Balrog. And notice a thing you'll see with all of these units around here. We have Saki here. Regular old Saki, target only. C Saki, target only. Mad Dr. Clay, target only. Street Fighter Balrog, target only. If you need a dedicated trait counter that just targets only something and beats the hell out of them, you go with these guys. It's pretty common pattern here, not too hard to explain. And coming up next, we have another legend rare. You see, legend rares are pretty good. We got Kyosaka Nanaho, and this placement is actually kind of like a niche one, you know, because I said earlier Ultra Kaguya beats every single metal in the game. So why do I need Nanaho for? No, why do I need Nanaho? And the answer on why I need Nanaho is because of that LD. Because sometimes Ultra Kaguya is just at the front, like beating up the metals with low range, and that's all good. It covers most of it. But sometimes there's like an event enemy, like Metal Sloth, for example, where I need Nanaho's LD to kill, or like Angry Sun, she can like kill those base enemies. So I use Nanaho for that. But I still do use her. Mostly I use Ultra Kaguya though, so I hardly will use a Nanaho unless it's specific usage. Looking at more of these anti-Aku counters, because Aku is a very diverse trait, you know. But another one that I pull out now and then is a where is she? She's an Akuber. Yep, Lilin. Lilin, guaranteed shield pierce, guaranteed surge. Just your go-to shield piercer for me, at least. And really good nuker. We do have Hanayama now, but like I find Lilin more consistent at piercing shields because of the surge and lasting hitbox and like extra reach. But she might go down the more I use Hanayama, but I still think she's a very strong anti-Aku unit. So I'll put Lilin up here. And alongside her, we have good old Satoru, the summoner. We got all of these Aku Ubers here because Aku is a terrible trait to fight against. I think Aku is designed well, but it's just like, I mean, terrible in the sense is a hard trait. You need a lot of these strong Ubers to beat Aku, so I use a ton of different ones. Storu, you need that crowd control against Aku enemies. Like sometimes Difono doesn't slow for long enough, so you need a dedicated niche slower. And then you go for your Satoru. Pretty good answer to Aku enemies. Next up, we have Miyamoto. This is a weird one because normally Miyamoto does not see any use at all. But if you're in a place like I am with all of these stuff, then you use Miyamoto now and then because he has the highest DPS in the game into black enemies. And sometimes you just want to kill black enemies as fast as possible. And Miyamoto has very strong general stats as well, so he's going to contribute good damage on the field or like in general. So Miyamoto, kind of a sleeper pick. I don't think he's that good for a general like type of list for the Ubers or Legendaries, but for what I use him for, I have a place in the game for Miyamoto. And next up, we have a Aether, similar to a 3D printer right here. I use Aether sometimes against zombies if I just want something that has a bit faster cooldown and just cheaper in price. We go for Aether. Strong combo as well on Aether. And now, we're getting to the end of A+, so there's only a few more Ubers. There's only 4 more Ubers that I use. Only 4 more. And it's kind of shocking in a way, because I only use 4 more, and then everything else I kind of just don't use. And this might be, even though we've seen everything I've done so far, this might be the single most shocking placement that like any of you guys are gonna see. And that is, we have Mamo Luga. I actually use this guy even with all these Ubers. And the reason why I still use Mamo Luga is just weaken. You know, I still have Hell Warden Emma, but sometimes it's RNG, she doesn't always proc. If there's a stage that I want to run a weaken on, and Mamo already like covers the full distance to the base, I lose nothing by just clicking Mamo Luga, and then I can do Mamo Luga attack into Conjure, into second attack. I just get that 17 seconds, I think, of like long weaken, and then it's nice support, because if you have top Ubers, supporting them always is nice, so we got Mamo Luga to support them. For normally for most people, Mamo Luga should not be anywhere close to here, but he's really good at supporting stuff, so I still use Mamo Luga now and then. And coming up next, you're kind of surprised, because looking at all of these stuff, we still have not placed her, but it's finally time to place Kazli, because you know even with all this stuff that's overpowered, Kazli has a time and a place. But for specifically Kazli, I just use her now and then for knockbacking stuff. 50% chance is not the best, but sometimes you want to knock back the whole stage, and that's where Kazli is. Following up Kazli, we have a very new Uber in Dark Luna. I tried using Dark Luna sometimes, and she does put in work against her target traits. It's not as good as Luna by far though, because it does not have freeze, only has a weaken. So Dark Luna is a lot worse than regular Luna. Plus, this does not have a wave blocker. It has counter surge, and counter surge is kind of a weird one. So Dark Luna, not a bad unit. I use it sometimes. She might fall off here because I'm kind of in the testing phase where I'm using this unit and it is working well, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep using Dark Luna. And then the last one to cap everything off, we finally have Cats in the Cradle. A lot of you guys were waiting for this guy. I do use him, but I don't use him too often because he's kind of a unit that takes too much setup for not too much reward, because he kind of lands as one hit and then you're just stuck waiting. So like a little bit of improvement doesn't net to too much more with a Cats in the Cradle. But he's still really good. Still really good in the right hands, in the right setup. Just doesn't benefit too much with support and stuff. So I do like that. Do like Cats in the Cradle for that reason. And well, we're done. We're done with everything. These are all the Ubers that I find myself using when I have like a lot of stuff. I don't use anything else besides these guys, because I just don't find a need to. Every single niche covered. Top generalists all covered. This is what I use. And there are fantastic, fantastic units in the game that I don't use because I just don't need it. Like, I'm gonna go next, for example. Actually, I'll film this tier next. I gotta do combo first, and we gotta put our obvious combo slaves in there. Where is Diabolosa? I use him for the combo. Diabolosa. Oh, a Vigler. Vigler is obviously a combo unit I use. And Cuneo. Use Cuneo as well. I use Riki too. Not as much. I use him the least out of all my combo slaves. But I still do use Riki. I use Cowluga sometimes. And this might seem a bit weird, but sometimes I run Cowluga because I want MKD instead of Rice Ball. Which is rare, but on some stages where I want research but also Rangers, I go Cowluga instead. Plus, I can use them both sometimes if I don't want to run Last Boss, because Last Boss's extra units are kind of terrible. So, yeah, Cowluga goes there. Oh, there's Diabolosa. I also use Chun Chun because I want single slot research sometimes. And Diabolosa. In order of how often I use these guys, probably go Cuneo, then Vigler, then Diabolosa, then like Chun Chun, and then Cow, and then Riki. I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Oh yeah, found him. I use Hayabusa too for Enter the Ninja. Because, you know, as I said earlier, I do like speed clipping some stuff, so Enter the Ninja is going to be pretty nice for making Yukimura easier to speed clip and just speeding up the game in general. So I use Enter the Ninja. These are mainly all the combos I use. Now and then you might see like these niche combos that I bring out, but usually it's just these guys. And that's everything I use now. Now let's give a shout out to units that I know are good and I really respect, but I just don't use too much because I have all of these guys. Units that are still fantastic, depend on like, and also like rank on different levels of fantastic. But let's look at some stuff that is great, but I don't really use. You know, because I feel like a lot of times when people make tier lists, it's all like, this unit's good, this unit's ass, or this unit's mid. It's always like those three, and it's never like this unit's good, but I don't really use them that much. But they're still good. Like, not many people acknowledge units like that, so I find myself enjoying acknowledging certain units like that. So that's what the close but no cigar tier is for. And one of the units that is kind of shocking that I don't use, but a lot of people would use in a position that I'm in, is where is she? She should be. What the heck? Wait, that doesn't make sense. She should be like right here. Looking for Saber Altar, by the way. A lot of people use Saber Altar. I don't really use Saber Altar, but Saber Altar, very very strong unit. Like range, like Rusher LD, destroys floating enemies. I just don't really use her, but she is fantastic unit. So I could see a lot of people using a Saber Altar somewhere high, but just personally I do not. But I have no clue where Saber Altar is. And it's weird because I see all the Fate guys over here, but don't find Saber Altar. She's next to Air. Okay, let me find Air. Why is she up here? Saber Altar. Don't use her. Still a nice unit though. Next is fan favorite Kasajizo. Like these are the units that I think I will bring out sometimes, not just for like, not for clear purposes, but just to have fun, you know? And like, they're strong units anyways. So we got Jizo, we got Saber, those very strong units. I don't really use them that much. I mean, I don't use them at all because I have stuff that I prefer to use, but I acknowledge they're super strong units. Another fan favorite unit right here, Poseidon. Super strong rusher with that Savage Blow talent. I just don't like RNG on a rusher, because when I play rusher, I like to play around setups, and I like my setups to be consistent. And like, when you get a Poseidon, you kind of have to acknowledge that he has RNG and it's not really controllable. And while I'm dealing with an RNG unit like a last boss, it's kind of like he does the all-in by himself, while Poseidon, I have to build around him going in, and then we don't know what's going to happen next because of his RNG. But Poseidon, very strong unit. A lot of people like him because he's ranged rusher and has great stats. So I acknowledge him being strong, but I just don't really like using him. Oh yeah, and next we got Ultra Form Air. I think Ultra Form Air I actually really like. Ultra Form Air is like close to being A+. Because I consider using him a lot of the time, but the problem is just like I never find a use for him. Like what he does is really strong into aliens, but I just have my Saki, I have my Blanca, and like I just use those instead. Stages get wiped, don't find a need for that air. Don't really need the air. But he is a great counter to aliens. Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. It's kind of messed up in a way. Like, the first pixie to join my list is Air. It's Air. But I would not call him the best pixie. Maybe in Ultra form, but you're kind of stretching it both ways there. But I'll give Air the shout out here, because I think he's a cool unit. Another alien answer here. We got some ultra talent Akira. Next, I think this is Balgor's favorite unit. So Balgor, if you're watching this, your unit very cool, very strong unit as well. I just don't personally use it. So Akira, strong answer to Alien and Aku. I just have stuff that I prefer more, like a Saito into Aku, and the stuff I named before for aliens. Maybe if you have both of those two in a stage, you can save a slot by running Akira, but that won't happen too much, so I don't run Akira that much. And then next up we got Dio Ramos, another strong ultra form. I think Dio Ramos is like just pure stat stick, but like if you have stuff that's better, he's a bit too slow for me to want to use, because I have stuff that gets the job done faster. Dio is a very strong stat stick. He's gonna break your progression, help you beat all the hard stages with just big stats. But for me, I already got the big stats, so I'd rather take something more mobile and more flexible than a Dio Ramos. So we'll put Dio Ramos there. Falling up, let's go with Ku for the same reasons. Big damage, big general damage, big trait damage, but I already got my answers, so I don't run Ku. But she's still a very strong ultra form. Like you might notice we got a ton of ultra stuff near the bottom now. Like ultra form. Well, one of them is ultra talents. Well, two are ultra talents, but ultra stuff here. The only ultra stuff that I actually use like the most, Cosmo, obviously a step above everything. Kaguya for the metal. Kai, I don't even need the ultra talent sometimes, but it's nice to have level 60 Kai. Windy for floatings, Cradle when I'm bored, and then Warlock sometimes, but mostly use his first form. And next after Ku, let's go with a fan favorite here. We got Can You Solo into the future with 1 slot. We got Bora here. Very strong answer to aliens. I will say he is probably the best answer to aliens in the game. But then why don't I use him is because Saki covers what he covers in like stages for me better than Bora does. Because like Bora's still gonna die to Banagrios. He does like he does millions of damage to Banagrios. But my Saki just outranges it, so I prefer a Saki on a Banagrios. In other stages too, I can go Blanca. So I don't use Bora, but he's a very strong, well-rounded anti-alien unit. Good unit against aliens. Next up, I gotta shout out Babel here. Babel is probably, I have my best tanks here. We got a Hades, and my Emma, and my Kai. Those are like the best tanks, but I gotta shout out Babel. Very good tank, actually. He does a lot of tanking on his target traits, but he's also like a good like unit that has a lot of health and just stands at a nice range, so you can protect them well. So he's a good synergy unit for Babel, but he just cannot do much by himself. He's just kind of like a tool to build around sometimes. But I like him, so we'll put him there. Another unit that goes in the close but no cigar tier is Sakura Sonic. I'm gonna be Eunice. This unit kind of sucks, but I like her design, so we'll put her here. I like Sakura Sonic. Plus, she's not bad instant metal. She's pretty good, very good into metal. But Kaguya outmatches her completely, and so does Nanaho too. So she's kind of just not optimal to run into metal if you have a lot of better options, but she's nice if you don't have those, and very cool design. I like Sakura Sonic a lot. Even before the Ultra form, I liked Sakura Sonic a lot. Very funny design. Not really funny, just a cool design. It is kind of funny though. She became a TikToker in Ultra form. And next up, we got A. Where is he? Very underrated unit. We got 3N Wonder. 3N Wonder, very underrated collab unit. Very strong Angel answer, very strong Zombie answer. I'd say one of the best for both of the traits. I just have better ones individually. But if there's a mixed stage, then you could use Wonder, but I usually just use what I already have. Wonder, very strong unit to shout out. So go use Wonder, guys, if you have him. Very cool unit. And next we're going to look for the Fest version of Izanagi with Izanami. Pretty good anti-trait list. I will say she's very strong in that regard, because she does a lot of damage. It's just she cannot match up to a D'Artagnan or to a Black Zeus. Conjure's nice as well, but the freeze is pretty low duration. And now let's go Bunny and Canard. You'd think that he'd be like here because I have Summer Saki, but I don't really use him as a red answer or an Aku answer because I like more like tanky stuff to intercept Aku or red, because I just find that to work better. Or just LD. Like I run Eva 02 instead for the reds. For the Akus I run a Saito, for example. Or Hanayama or Lilin. So not a bad answer at all for Psycho Duck. I just don't use him. Next up, fan favorite definitely. Got Gigapult. Gigapult strong unit. I know a lot of you guys are gonna be like, you guys kind of saw my all units tier list back then, where I put Gigapult in D tier, and you're like, what the hell? But I will say though, when I was doing that, I was ranking him assuming you don't have the Ultra form, so that's why it's Catapult who's in D tier. Gigapult way above that D tier. So Gigapult's strong unit. He's a very strong unit. So that's why I put Gigapult like here. You can use him. I just don't have a need to use him, you know? He's going to destroy stages. A lot of these units are going to destroy stages. It's just using stuff like here is more optimal for me. So Gigapult, nice unit. Very strong unit. I don't use him that much though, personally. But you can. And in a similar fashion, this unit is, this next unit, one of my favorite new additions with Mr. Fish, Dolly-san. Strong unit. Very strong unit. I put him like, honestly, I put him like somewhere here if this was a general usage list, because he's one of the strongest like general backliners. But because I just have better, don't use the fish that much, but he's a very, very strong fish, and I love that design. Easily my favorite Dragon Emperor with that fish design, because fishes are cool. I like fish a lot. Another low-key unit I'm a shout out here. We got, if I can find him, Mitsuhide. Mitsuhide flies under the radar because nobody even knows who this guy is. But he's like kind of like Lucifer. He's like 550 range, I think, or 500. And like he's like just that sniper unit role, but he is a conjure, and I like the conjure a lot. So if I want a sniper and just want bonus conjure, I could use a Mitsuhide. I don't think he's the best because like doesn't have a true form, and all of these guys are more optimal. But if Mitsuhide does get a true form, could jump up. But for now, solid unit, very good unit. In fact, I'd say I just don't use him that much. Oh yeah, and by the way, this tier not ranked. All these guys are not ranked in order, but these guys are ranked in order. And after Mitsuhide, gonna have to shout out, where is he? Cat Machine. Cat Machine is a very nice answer to like just tanking, getting rid of Professor A's, and also full walling red energies. Like those are some specific roles that Cat Machine does really well. And like Babel can full wall red energy and deal with Professor A good as well. But if you want something with more speed and also less range, so it's more of a wall, like a the enemies can't move at all instead of moving a tiny little bit. You can use Cat Machine. Also has nice damage. He just kind of like not very practical to use because he's gonna miss a lot and get stuck on enemies. But Cat Machine has his nice moments, so I'll give a shout out to him. Then of course, coming next we have Fraud Dazzly, who is a strong unit, but at the same time I have Dazzly, so I'll never touch Fraud Dazzly. Double Dazzly is like is good in theory, but not really. Naptime Michelia, pretty good unit against like Relic. I like this unit a lot. I just think that Relic has a lot of NU non-Uber creep already, and also we got our Luna for anti-Relic. But if you notice, we don't have any anti-Relic at all here, except for Luna. And Trixie, I guess. Trixie too. So Michelia, kind of nice sometimes for me, but it's just I have used non-Uber units like a Doron, Master Ural, so I don't need Michelia that much. But I think she is a good unit in concept if you're missing some of the stuff I have. So I will shout out her. Another shout out I want to give that's underrated is Sodom. Sodom, a very strong anti-behemoth unit with his ultra talents. He's kind of impractical from a cost standpoint because who the hell wants to give 15 Dark Eyes to Sodom? But as a behemoth slayer, like anti-relic, anti-floating, and behemoth slayer, very strong actually. Like great on Sirakdes, great against like Luzas. Sodom is like a nothing to sleep over. It's a very strong unit. Just too slow to be practical a lot of the time and not worth the investment at all for most people. But Sodom is a fun guy to like mess around with. Next up we got where is she? Another one of my favorite units in the game. We got Momoko, super fun unit with a freezing wave. Very fun unit, can enable a lot of plays, but just too specific and not powerful enough to be with these guys. So Momoko, very fun unit. I'd recommend you use her more if you have her, even if you have top Ubers, because like Momoko is just super fun. But Momoko, get a shout out from me. Another unit that I'm gonna shout out is Vega. Got a true form recently, but she still has the problem of 50% proc chance. But I'm still giving her a shout out because she is so close to being really good. If that weekend was guaranteed, she'd be like with Emma up here. But it's not guaranteed, so I don't find a reason to use Vega. But she was close to greatness. Very, very potentially good Uber. Another Uber that's just nice sometimes. Wedding Chronos, random debuffs, but it's LD. If you feel like gambling, can use a Wedding Chronos. Very good unit because it's going to proc a lot of stuff and help you. But it's always RNG, so you can't bank on a Wedding Chronos saving you. But something that you can bank on is a Sirius. But Sirius is a strong unit, but just with the power level I have, so a jack of all trades, generalist backliner, I'm not going to need that at all. So no Sirius for me, but a strong one if you happen to pull Sirius. It's going to do a lot. Similarly, Gravy, don't really need him because I have all the stuff here. Relic is just dead to me. Alien's dead to me. I don't ever find myself needing an Alien or Relic tank at all because, like, you know, I just kill them so fast, and I have Rock Cat as well. But Gravy, very solid unit for the general player, and for progression, he's a strong progression unit. So Gravy is nice for that. But for what I have, don't need Gravy that much. Next one I want to mention, we got D'Artagnan. He's kind of like Darktagnan, but less health, and is like only good against like traded, but that's not a hard barrier to pass. It's mostly the low health. Darktagnan is so much better than D'Artagnan because Darktagnan has like a ton more health and that anti-traitless niche. While D'Artagnan, not the dark one, the regular D'Artagnan, is kind of fragile. You need to play well for him to do well. He's a high skill floor unit to get value out of D'Artagnan, but you definitely can. So player who plays him well can put him up here, but I just don't find a need for him when I already got my good old Dark Dart. Next up, we got Shingen, another one of these target-only units. He's just a bit too laggy for me. I prefer these target units. Plus, they have an easier time hitting certain enemies, so it's just better compatibility than Shingen, who's that jack-of-all-trades unit, kind of, with his ultra talents. Targets a lot with target-only, but he's kind of clunky to use, but he still has the power behind him. So big shout-out to Shingen being a strong unit. Another unit that's kind of like a meme unit, but also kind of viable, we got Lovestruck Balrog. who does not have anywhere near the stats as Balrog. But you can still run him though. Like, he's RNG, kind of clunky, but if you can use him as like a brawling unit, so he's strong in that regard. He's nowhere near regular Balrog, but he's still a fine unit. Like, he's like around Cat Machine good, I'd say. So you can find yourself using White Rog if you want to. Although you might be subjected to crazy RNG. He can turn into any Uber by doing random crowd control effects. And I think that, where is she? She got a true form recently in a Madoka. I'll also give a shout out to. Strong anti-floating LD sniper, but like, I don't really need that because I already got my other anti-floatings. And besides, Saber, most people would take Saber over her anyways, and Saber is like a close one, but I don't really use Saber. And next up, another shout out. Let's give it to KG. KG, good stats, but most importantly, good cooldown and good health. He is a fast reproducible bruiser unit with high health and high damage, which is very useful to most people, but I don't really need that most of the time because I just have more specialized stuff. But KG is a strong unit that any player can use. I just don't happen to use him that much. So look at him as a good pull if you manage to get KG, even without the ultra talents. Next up, we have Subterra Guardians, another one of those strong anti-zombie units. I just don't find myself using Subterra that much because, you know, I already have Aether, and I got Moo, and I got Luna as well. So Aether, I don't use him that much, but he is still a strong unit. Wait, not Aether. I mean Subterra. I'll send the wrong thing. I use Aether. Don't use Subterra. So we gotta find Subterra. Here he is. Strong unit, anti-zombie. Don't use him that much. And next, Mamitomo. Also a strong LD sniper against the Angel trait, wherever she is hiding. Probably next to where Madoka was. There she is. Very strong unit. I just don't really use her. And the final one to go here. You guys have all been waiting for it. It's finally time to put Ganesha here. And looking at it now, like, you guys probably forgot about him, but like, it's probably shocking that Ganesha isn't anywhere higher. But with you, when you have stuff like this, you don't ever need Ganesha, because you want the damage LD. You go Dazzly. You can have a Phono. You have these other stuff that's just more utility. Ganesha is raw damage, and raw damage without the utility isn't too useful when you have raw damage with the utility. So I'll give Ganesha the final shout out in this cigar tier. But like, he's a nice unit. I just don't use him, you know? You guys, if you get a Ganesha, very super strong unit. But I wouldn't use him that much personally, you know? And I think that's it. These are all the units I'd like to like give a shout out to at the bottom. And these units that I do use a lot or a little bit, but I still use them regardless. So I think this was a fun time making a tier list like this. Oh wait, I'm gonna shout out Cat Clan Heroes because he's a cool unit. And then so people who don't realize what I'm doing think that this is just something stupid because they see Cat Clan at the top. But he's an icon, you know? He makes this list look cooler to look at. So we'll put Cat Clan here. And yeah, now we're done. We are done. Oh yeah, and there are some units though that I do like a lot, like a Nobeluga. But we let's be real, Nobeluga is not even close to being this good. Nobeluga is not close. These guys are close contenders for being this good for me in particular, but Nobeluga is a far down. He's like a low tier guy that I like. Yeah, I think that's all the shoutouts I'm gonna give to these units. I'm looking real quick to see if there's anyone else. Koneko maybe, but not really. I don't like super RNG, but it's a cool unit if you get it. Sakura maybe? No, I have better tanks. Gundros maybe in true form, but right now, no. Same for Asset. Maybe in true form, but right now, not. I won't really use them. Dark is used to use, not anymore because we got better shield pierce. Kin Rangers, I got better LD because Phono came out. Don't use him anymore. Lil Valk is like a personal favorite, but she just stopped being as good when we got better options. So I don't touch Lil Valk anymore. And if we look at everything else with the ultra stuffs, I think that's it. Afro is kind of not as good as these guys anymore. Still a great unit, but not the best. Yep, I think that's gonna be about it. So everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed this stream of me just sharing my favorite and like my most used, because this is my personal tier list. I'm gonna say it one more time again. This is Canned Juice's personal Uber tier list of April 2025. For by personal, it means this is the power of the Uber if I'm the one who's using them, and within the context of me playing the game. So do not apply this to yourself or use it as a guide or just a general way to gauge Ubers. This only applies if you're me, because it's my personal list, you know? And from the top, Cat Clan does not count. We got Balrog 1, Nestle 2, Izanagi 3 in the triple S tier, unmatched for me. Then Cosmo 4, Phono 5, Yukimura 6, Dphono 7, Luna 8, Kronos 9, all in the high usage tier for SS. Drop down to S for sometimes niche usage. We'll go Last Waltz at 10, Thunderjack 11, Chun-Li 12, Trixie 13, Dark Dart at 14, Kaguya at 15, Ultra Form, Hades 16, Emma 17, Count Yukimura at 18, Isanboshi 19, Saito at 20, Luffy at 21, Mitama at 22, Kai at 23, and then we get to A+, which units that I use rarely, like on very specific scenarios. Eva 02 is 24, Hondo 25, we have Kana at 26, Blanca 27, Kalisa 28, Windy 29, Black Zeus is 30, Gaia 31, Ushi 32, Ramiel 33, Mu is 34, Saki 35, Summer Saki 36, Herachrist 37, Orlok Pier 38, Hanayama 39, Street Fighter Balrog at 40, Nanaho at 41, Lilin 42, Satoru 43, Miyamoto 45, Aether at 46, Memo at 47, Regular Kazli at 48, Dark Luna at 49, and Cradle at number 50. I did not know we had exactly 50 units here that I use, but I guess I use exactly 50 Ubers and Legend Rares. And that's my list, and these are all the guys who I would like to say are pretty good units. You should probably use them, but I just have way overpowered stuff, so I don't really touch them. But they're strong units for sure that I would like to give a shout out to. Some more obviously strong than others. And my combo units are here. Use them for just the combo. Yeah, that's all we got today. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. I'm now going to end the stream.